Hello, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the NXTCC, the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship Season 5, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform, available only on PC, known as iRacing, and powered by IMB Racewear. This is the series that continues to ask the question, who is the master and mistress of the front-engine, front-wheel drive touring car racing class machine? And as we return from the first mid-season break, and Christmas only around the corner, we are back for another 3 rounds of racing, starting with round number 4 tonight, and we are here at a special venue, special to the heart of NXTCC. It is none other than the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, or known as Mosport in short, as we like to refer to it as Canadian Thruxton. This circuit being originally in the Season 1 calendar as a step in for Thruxton, given that the British circuit is not available in the iRacing service. This circuit has captured the hearts of many an admin and driver alike, and indeed many of you guys and girls as spectators, for its combination of sweeping corners, multiple very sharp elevation changes, and a phenomenally long back straight, which sees our drivers reach some of the highest top speeds they'll ever do over the course of the season. To do well here, you've got to be brave on the brakes, you've got to be bold with the overtaking moves, but you've also got to be fully committed from corner to corner and ready to balance the keenness of your cars for understeer versus the need to get on full throttle as soon as possible. Get it right, you may find yourself running around at the front of the field. Have a get it wrong, you'll be off into the grass. Alternatively, you find yourself battling and potentially having to back out of a corner, because 2 does not go into 1 at most of the corners around here. But as our drivers get set and ready to go racing today, we welcome you all to this live broadcast from circuit side, available on free media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, on the 2 official Next Gen Racing media platforms, you could be tuning in right now via the broadcast on YouTube at Next Gen Racing. And hello to you guys and girls on YouTube, including Ryan Walker, and I hope you're doing very well, Ryan. It's always good to see you tuning in. We also do say hello to guys and girls on the official Next Gen Racing Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. And we hope you're all having a fantastic evening on Facebook. But we also do have the unofficial broadcast available on Twitch, and that's at twitch.tv/TX141. And some of you may be asking this moment, as we say hi to you girls, guys and girls on Twitch, who's TX141? Who is that exactly? Well, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit of the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I'll be bringing you all your racing action from circuit side tonight, and indeed the entirety of the season. And speaking of tonight, let's come to our scheduled times in Greenwich Mean Time. That's GMT, or Universal Coordinated Time, UTC. And as we can see, in just under 18 minutes time, we're going into our qualifying session, flat out all the way from start to finish. The slipstream is going to be a big factor here, and over the course of the 15 minutes, who will be on pole in the overall and also the prime categories before we head to the grid for our first of 3 races today. Of course, there's another 3 races in the round. We started with race number 1 at 8:15. That will be 14 laps in length. All of our races will be 14 laps, or approximately 20 minutes without a safety car. And as our drivers make their way on through there, they'll be just in for position. But then we take a brief break, but not without our first reverse grid draw, and we'll return in just before what will be 9 o'clock for the build up to race number 2. After race number 2, we'll have another reverse grid draw before return approximately 9:45 for our final race of the day, and that'll be the larger reverse grid draw all the way from P13 through to P23 eligible. And well, who's going to come out on top come the end of it all? That's the big question. And it is a very nice day today in Canada. It must be said on the simulator, 24 degrees centigrade ambient, but track temperature currently at 44 degrees centigrade. It is piping hot on the tarmac, but it's nice and pleasant out off of the tarmac in the stands. As all our drivers get set, let's take you through the calendar thus far and what we've still got lying in wait. Because as we can see, we've made our way now into the second part of the season. We wind back the clock, however, to give you a quick recap, because we started on the 7th of November, and that was at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. We could not start at where the British Touring Car Championship season normally concludes, at the Kent County circuit in the United Kingdom, and what a set of race it was, with Mikey Doble leading the way at the front of the field, not without the pressure of Wojciech Swirydowicz, however, indeed feeling that pressure from race to race. Meanwhile, in the prime class, it was all about Wojciech Doble absolutely dominating, and as we made our way into round number 2 at the Circuit of the Americas, the Coast West circuit, definitely catching out a good number of drivers, but once again we got to see the battle between Semper Racing and also Doble Sim Racing, and we also saw in the mix there a good number of our SRL with Next Gen drivers, including Dan Molden and Adam Delmont. That was on the 14th of November, and last time out in round number 3 on the 21st of November, we made our way to Brazil for the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, previously seen in Season 2 of the NXTCC and returning. And as our drivers made their way around the Grand Prix circuit, they absolutely took it back and forth against one another, as we got to see some brilliant battling, some very near the mark, some seeing multiple doors come off the cars as well, albeit our drivers had to be told to calm down at certain points, but it wouldn't be touring car racing without a few cars ending up with major bumps and scrapes. But the key thing there, we got to see the rise of one name in particular in the prime class, and that was Ben Altria, who picked up his first ever prime class win in race number 3 of the day, and a double podium preceding it as well. So Altria on absolutely fine form, and we've seen some fine form across our prime class all season. You'd have to look at the circuit in the Americas for Alex Meredith dominant day in the United States of America, but Wojciech Doble has been the man to lead the way, as we'll come to very shortly. Speaking of the remainder of our calendar, today is the 5th of December, and therefore we're in Canada at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. But after today, we'll be making our way to Germany for a double-header to wrap up the end of the first half of the season and go charging into the second half. Because on the 12th of December, it'll be the Nürburgring GP Strecke that we'll be playing host to our drivers, and then we make our way from Nürburg all the way over to Oschersleben for the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben on the 19th of December, and then we'll be seeing our drivers return to a fan favourite, the Oschersleben circuit, the scene of our first ever Pro-Am overall win in the hands of Wojciech from JW Motorsport, and could he potentially do it again? We'll have to wait and see. But that's where we're going to be on what is our 6th round of the season. And then we'll make our way into the Christmas break week, our second mid-season break, before we return for round number 7 with a whole new year of racing in 2024. And that'll be on the 2nd of January at the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours as our drivers take on the infamous French circuit, no longer used by Formula 1, but still used by a good number of series on a regular basis, including the French Porsche Carrera Cup. And as our drivers take to the highly technical circuit, they'll be looking to try and remember corner sequences from around the globe, which indeed the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours borrows from. And then they'll make the way over to America for the final time this season for the Sebring International Raceway, another new circuit for the season. Indeed, the first time we're making our way there to the US state of Florida on the 9th of January. And then we bring it all to a close rounds 9 and 10, a double header in the United Kingdom, starting with the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, the first time we've ever taken to the Grand Prix layout of Silverstone, having previously taken on what was both the international and also the national layouts. And then we'll bring it all to a close on the 23rd of January in a celebration of the return to the BTCC calendar of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. It's only fair. It is our crown jewel of the season, the infamous Leicestershire circuit. We're playing host to our drivers, and that's where we bring the curtain down. Now, speaking of bringing the curtain down, let's bring it back up and tell you a little bit about the championship standings so far. And here we start with the overall drivers' championship after 3 rounds of racing. And you can see it is Wojciech Swirydowicz who leads the way on 342 points to the 336 of Mikey Doble. 6 points separates the two of them, and if you want to expand the catchment area, you'll notice that the top 4 right now separated by only 17 points when you add Wojciech Doble and also Daniel Martin into the mix. It does mean it is incredibly close between all of our drivers right now, and there is nothing in it between the top 4. Indeed, Swirydowicz and Doble have been battling back and forth, and that's Mikey Doble, but let's not count out Wojciech Doble as well, who's had his fair share of great performances, and Daniel Martin continues to rise up through the ranks, and it is ready right now anyone's guess who out to this top 4 is going to be leading come the end of today. However, the best part then of what is 69 points further afield in P5, Jamie Dory, and you can see there holding only a single point over Jaroslav Sabula, with Adam Delman, Gavin Gardner, Lee Horn and Benjamin McCluskey completing the top 10. All pro drivers in the top 10 currently. It's the first time we've seen that this season, but our pros really coming on strong in this overall championship. And then outside the top 10, only by the best part of 10 points, Paul Zanatachi, and they're the Affinity driver right now trying to break his way back in after being in the top 10 in round number 3, but it wasn't to become the end of the racing last time out. Isaac Doble, meanwhile, our leading Pram sits P12 on 196 points, 20 clear of Martin Shirley, with Nick Clemens and William Guthrie completing the top 15. And then it's Dan Mould, Fraser Elphick, Alex Meredith, Ben Altrier and Reece Watt who complete your top 20. And you'll notice there Elphick being demoted from the Pro class to the Prime class. And we do have some other class changes to tell you about in due course, but keep your eyes out for them. And as we look from outside of our top 20 on 112 points from Reece Watt, we can see that only a third point behind Sam Smith on 111 points, staying incredibly close and looking to break his way back into the top 20 come the end of today. Russell Fowler, P22, the pro, who's had a lot of misfortune this season so far, much like Reece Watt a little bit further up the grid, and he'll be looking to try and turn things around today. Russell Fowler will do indeed, as will Michael Leese in P23 on 95 points. He's only 4 clear of Goldwing Motorsports' Daniel Downing, with Matthew Addy P25, John Higgins Jr., and then Sam Van Alst, Ian Manners, Alan McCain, and Luciano Vidford, who complete your top 30. And outside the top 30, Paul Scott P31, who's got a slender advantage of 9 points over Duncan Moraes, with Matthew Sheraton, Rafael Zarsht, and then Jay Calais completing your top 35. Fan favourite there, Jay Calais, continuing to battle his way towards the top 30, ahead of Luke Jones, Harry Gaylor, Mark Kent, Wayne Douglas, and Dale McQueen to complete your top 40. And then to wrap up the overall Drivers' Championship standings, the remainder of our drivers here, let's give them all a mention. Jonathan Collins at P41 there on 7 points, only ahead of James Mansell based on result count back. And it is Stephen Fry, Jake Pitt, and Callum Jenkins who complete your top 45, ahead of Mark Sykes, only in result count back, and then Alex Everett and Andrew Holmes, the last driver to have a single point against his name there for the prime driver P48, ahead of 0 points driver of Harley Bicknell, also George Watson, Peter Greenwood, Nigel Stock, Dom Joy, Craig Tiddleston, and also Scott Malcolm. And on negative points due to post-round student penalties previously applied, Gabriel Yilmaz Thomas, Ian Wild, and also Adam McNally. But then we come on to the Prime Drivers' Championship, powered by IMB Racewear and aptly renamed the IMB Racewear Championship, and it is Wojciech Doble who leads the way by the 88 points as we mentioned earlier. And right now, can anybody close the gap to Doble? That's the challenge. And Ben Altria taking his highest spot in the championship into P2, ahead of recently demoted Fraser Elphick into P3 on 307 points, who's only in turn 7 points clear of Daniel Downing. But it's very close right now for that P2 spot, and that's before we consider the fact that only a further point behind in P5 is Matthew Addy, and a further, 15 points behind is Alex Meredith. And then Sam Van Olst another 2 points behind. So a top 7 right now, really vying for what is that P2 slot and the right to chase down Wojciech Doble. And will they all be busy fighting one another and letting the championship leader run away today? Well, that is highly a possibility. We'll have to wait and see. But also have to see if Sam Smith can get his way into that top 7, as can Alan McCain. The two iRacing esports drivers both vying for that P8 position and eager to make some further progress, with Paul Scott only a further 9 points behind in P10. Outside the top 10 by the best part of what is 37 points, Matthew Cheverton ahead of Duncan Moraes, with Luke Jones, Jay Calais and Raphael Zarch completing your top 15. And then Mark Sykes, James Spencer Scout, Callum Jenkins, Ian Wild and Stephen Fry completing the top 20. And Wild and Fry only separated on what is position based on result count back there, with Wild ahead of Fry. And then from 88 points in P20, we go to 86 for Joff and Collins, who's 2 outside of the top 20, I should say. And it's Mark Kent, Harla Bicknell, followed by George Watson and Harry Gaylor, who complete your top 25. And then Craig Tillerston, P26 on 70 points. He's only 2 behind Gaylor, with a further 9 points to Jake Pitt. And it's Peter Greenwood, Alex Everett and Scott Malcolm who complete your top 30. And to wrap up the standings, P31 through to P34 is Andrew Holmes, Gabriel Umez, Nigel Stock and Dom Joy, who's yet to participate in the round, who sits on 0 points. But then coming on to the Teams Championship, because of course we do have a Teams Championship running in parallel with everything else. Double Sim Racing leads the way on 647 points to the 580 of Semper Racing. Now, you may notice a little bit further down the standings that we do have a number of teams that have been brought together. Do keep in mind that over the course of the mid-season break, we have merged together some of the independent teams, so that way they can compete as a set of teams, as a dedicated team, if you were in this Teams Championship. But you're going to be seeing them represented on the broadcast as per their standard team names, but this is just being done to give them the feel that they can be right in the fight as well for the Teams Championship. And you never know, a series of independents may be able to take the crown come the end of it. We've seen the impossible in the NXTCC over 4 seasons thus far. But right now, that top battle between the top 2 teams are 67 points, and Semper Racing looking to close the gap, but Double Sim Racing really have been the force to beat. RD Simsport a further, 45 points behind. Don't count them out either, given the fact they're only 2 points clear of NXTGEN Pink and fighting off that third place spot, with NXTGEN Pink meanwhile in P4 and not wanting to be there. They want to be closer to the top 2, but they've got to get through RD Simsport first. They want to be able to do so. And it's SRL NXTGEN who complete the top 5 there. The team right now in a bit of a no man's land that's growing in the fact they are starting to lose out to the top 4, but at the same time they are pulling away from the rest of the field, and therefore they'll be looking to try and get a good set of results on the board today in order to close the delta a little bit more. But me on the battle for P6, it could not be closer, with 361 points there to NXTGEN with Sam Cases, and then it's the combination team of Bradman Esports, Performance Link Esports and Affinity P7, only which 12 points behind, and a further 20 to iRacing Esports. And then we can see Full Tilt v Mosport and JW Mosport completing the top 10. But from P6 to P10, it is only the best part there of what is effectively, I do believe, at 78 points. Nothing in it right now between the 5 teams, and they're all eager to try and be the best one to chase down the top 5. But outside the top 10, from 283, it's the 206 of Goldwyn Motorsport, with Aztec Racing P12 on 53 points, having a difficult start to the season, but gradually building some points. And then we've got the combination of FR20 Sim Racing, Mally Motors, Whiskey Runners, Sergi Sim Racing on 15 points, ahead of P739 Motorsports with 6 points on the board, and Crest Autosport complete the stands there with 2 points apiece, Alex Everett and Nigel Stock. But now we come on to our circuit for today, and it's none other than the full layout of the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, located near the town of Bowmanville in the Durham region in the state of Ontario in Canada. This circuit is perhaps overshadowed by the feature of Montreal, the city circuit, of course, which plays host to Formula 1 on an annual basis, but you should not underestimate the potency of the Mosport circuit, as it's nicknamed, but known as Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for the purposes of sponsorship reasons. The reason for this is, as we see from the circuit map providers by iRacing.com, and thank you to them for their brilliant simulator and with the fantastic track maps they've provided, is that this circuit is all about thrills and spills, where the thrills come on the battles into the corners, and the spills come while drivers make mistakes and understeer their way wide or get it wrong under braking into certain corners. But for it all, the one consistent theme here is the fact that you need to be on the ball in order to come out on top. For as our drivers charge away across the start-finish line and down into the dip for the sweeping right-hander at turn number 1, they'll find their way into an off-camber corner, but as they cut their way out the corner, they need to carry all the speed they can up the rise into Clayton at turn number 2. Clayton corner is a considerable challenge, and the fact our drivers have to make their way over a peak into the apex, and it is effectively one of the hardest blind apex corners in the world. For as they make their way over the rise, it's sunny downhill and off-camber, and you've got to try and keep the car nice and tight as you hunt that late apex, and in doing so you'll pick up all the speed to charge into Quebec corner at turn number 3. Now it's going to be about being as late as possible on the brakes, with the corner being absolutely extended on its radius, but as our drivers make their way on around, they'll find themselves very gradually making their way to a late apex once again, and charging their way down through the depression of 4 and into Moss corner at turn number 5. Named after Sir Sterling Moss, who helped remodel the circuit with some recommendations after the initial inaugural race of the circuit was held, and indeed Sir Sterling Moss seen as a bit of a local hero in bringing the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park circuit to life and bringing it into infamy to some extent, as he made his way down to the corner and suggested it be turned into a double apex hairpin. That's what we're going to be running today as our drivers make their way for the double right hand corner at turn number 5, and as they make their way past the second apex, it's a charge down the back straight named after Mario Andretti through turn 6 of the 7 and up towards the S's of turns 8 and 9. There it's all about braking as late as possible, and you've got to be confident in the fact it's an incredibly long braking zone into turn number 8, but get it right and be late on the brakes, you'll carry all the speed into 9, with the average apex speed suddenly coming down drastically as our drivers make their way through a left-hander and up towards White's corner at turn number 10, a deceptively tight exit where it's very easy to run wide, but get it right and you'll carry all the speed up towards the start-finish line and a short run to turn number 1 once more. As our drivers get set and ready to go racing, we give you a quick reminder of the rules. This is firstly a fixed setup series with setups provided to our drivers ahead of each and every round by the NXTGEN Racing Administration. Driver classes have now been finalised as the conclusion of round number 3, and therefore we'll give you updates on what changes have occurred to the classes since the mid-season break. But if we see any more class changes, they will be as an emergency measure or because a new driver has joined the grid and perhaps has not been evaluated accurately on their first debut round, but as the classes should be fixed from this point onwards. Now, sprint race-wise, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying, that's a given. The race 2 grid, meanwhile, shall be a reverse grid based on results of race number 1, with the reversal position being drawn live from the commentary booth between P6 and P12. The race 3 grid, meanwhile, shall be a reverse grid from the results of race number 2, the reversal position being drawn live once again from the commentary booth, but this time we up it from P13 to P23, and each driver shall have one fast repair available in each race, and each race shall conclude, after either the allotted lap amount or 30 minutes, whichever one expires first. We are expecting the allotted lap amount to expire first because it is roughly 20 minutes to 14 laps of racing, but if we do see 1 or 2 safety cars, we may go up to the 30 minutes. Now, we can see race stewarding-wise, an independent race director shall be stewarding the races for track limit infringements and also deployment of the safety car, and penalties of track limit infringements shall be as follows. The first and second warnings, they're just warnings, there's no penalty. A third warning, you get a 5-second post-race time penalty. It's doubled to 10 on your fourth warning, and on your fifth warning, it's a drive-through penalty that must be served within 3 laps. Race incidents, meanwhile, shall be reviewed post-round. And as for success ballast, just to remind you, we are running success ballast this season, and it's applied on a race-by-race basis to both the overall and prime class categories. And for qualifying in race number 1, the success ballast is applied based on the championship standings prior to the round. For race number 2, we update it based on the official positions of race number 1, and we do the same for race number 3 based on the official positions of race number 2. And as for the success ballast table, well, there it is in all of its glory. We're not going to break it down fully, but we can tell you as for overall, our championship leader going into qualifying will be carrying 56.1 kilograms. So Wojciech Swirydowicz will have his first hand of that maximum possible success ballast, meanwhile all the way down to 10th place with 4.7 kilograms. And in the prime class, it will be Wojciech Doble who carries the 32.5 kilograms of success ballast initially, with 4.7 kilograms going to our 5th place driver there. So definitely that ballast is going to make a huge difference today, particularly down that back straight and also under braking into Moss corner, where our drivers will feel the weight come forward in the car very aggressively, and that could lead to some earlier braking for those carrying the weight. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough rules, regulation, everything between. You don't want to know any more about that. You want to be here for the racing, and so do we. And well, as we do look to Wayne Douglas making his way around with only 2 minutes left on the clock. Do you see a word there from Ryan Walker to say that he's doing good and asking how we're doing in the commentary booth, and doing quite well, thank you, Ryan. Although I must admit, I do think I've got a bit of a cold coming on, but goodness me, I'm going to say to the caution of the wind and just absolutely go for it, as I think they're completely butchering an old saying. Throwing caution to the wind, that's what I meant to say there, and therefore if I do sound a little bit groggy at any point, or it does sound as though my voice is about to give way, it's because I think a cold's going to try and break on me at any point. But I'm not going to break down or try not to, as we've got all the racing today. We also do say hello there to Harry Harley Townsend, friend who in the Facebook chat is cheering on Mikey Doble and hoping that Mikey can win it today. And we'll speak of the man, and here he is, Doble Sim Racing driver in the number 88 from the United Kingdom, and we're right now P2 in the championship. A long way to go, however, but Mikey Doble knows how to balance out a championship, and of course two-time overall champion, matching the two-time overall championship trophies of Jamie Dory. The two of them have got two apiece now, and really this season is about seeing whether one of them can become the three-time champion, or will we see a new name ascend to the very top come the end of it. But as Doble makes his way into the pit lane, absolutely itching and raring to go, no doubt about that, but now just parking the car up and deciding to cool on down for a little bit, and I think that's a good idea. But meanwhile, we do look to Alan McCain making his way on around for iRacing Esports, and as he does so, we say hello in the YouTube chat there to John Meredith, who says good evening all, and good evening to you, John. I hope you're doing well and you've had a good day, and that son Alex is all set and ready to go. Given the fact we do have Alex Meredith here once again, and he's on the grid, I do believe, albeit I think he's in the pit lane at the moment, and indeed we can see Alex Meredith currently parked up there just beyond the fence, the RD Simsport driver who does have one of the Semper Racing cars intermingled with him, and that's because we have a limited number of pit boxes here at the Mosport circuit. But you have to forgive us for that as the RD Simsport driver gets all ready to go. But meanwhile, we look to Jay Clay here, the privateer in the number 89, and as he makes his way into the pit lane, well, the clock has struck 1 hour on this practice session. It means it's time for us to head to qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. 15 minutes. Who's going to be on pole come the end of it? Well, it's time to find out. So as our drivers make the way out of the pit lane and onto circuit for 15 minutes of fast and furious one-lap pace, the big question is who is going to be on pole come the end of it? Well, as we see everybody roaring the way out, and will there Benjamin McCluskey being beaten to the post by Jamie Dory to be the first driver out of the pit lane? Is that going to be important? Well, arguably a yes, but perhaps in the long term no, but let's explain. This is one of those circuits whereby picking up a toe can prove absolutely valuable, particularly on the latter half of the lap. So coming out of Moss Hairpin all the way in the run up towards the S's, you want to be in the toe because that can be worth the best part of 3 attempts on the run down the back straight. However, elsewhere on the circuit, if you are in the slipstream going through turns 1 through to 3, so the run all the way through the opening downhill right-hander up towards Quebec corner on the exit of 3, that dirty air can compromise your lines to a degree and therefore upset the balance of the car. But if you can balance it, you can mitigate the damage done to your lap time and therefore gain over the entirety of the lap on the run from this corner or the exit of it, coming out of Moss now all the way up towards the S's. So therefore picking up a toe later on in the qualifying session is going to bode well. But in the early stages, when you're getting the tyres up to temperature, you're burning the fuel out of the car and you're really feeling the circuit rubbering, that's where you want to be in a bit of clear air as well, just to get a bank lap in and build up the confidence in the car and really build up that sense of pacing, because this is a bit of a rhythmic circuit as well, albeit I personally haven't raced around it on the simulator in a touring car racing class machine, and instead done a little bit of LMP free action in the preceding months, and I can tell you after a couple of laps around here it feels like poetry in motion, going from left to right and also on the run through the sweeping corners, and it is all about having that confidence, and in the end it becomes muscle memory around here. And as we'll jump on board with one of our drivers shortly to bring in on board lap, one of the key things to know around here as well is there are no major brake markers. There's no 100 boards in the majority of the corners. Your brake markers are going to be pieces of the scenery or fence posts or bits of the tyre barrier. Alternatively, you have to do it based on what you remember as a driver in terms of that muscle memory going through both your feet, your left foot for the brake and your right foot for the accelerator typically. So therefore all the drivers will have that in mind. But meanwhile, as we look to at Raffles Arst as he heads on through, let's give you an update on what is the changes to the driver classifications going into this round. Indeed, these will be locked in for the remainder of the season as we're to understand it. And we've only had demotions since round number 3. We've had no promotions to the Pro class, so nobody moving up from Prime to Pro. Indeed, only drivers dropping from Pro to Prime. And they do include this man, Raffles Arsch from Semper Racing, after what has been a difficult start to his season, albeit his pace really competing inside the top 5 of the Prime class. We also do have dropping to Prime Alex Everett from what is Crest Autosport, and I do believe Alex Everett out circuit, and he's in amongst all the drivers there. You can just about pick him out in the Honda Civic Type R as he is being sandwiched there by the combination of Joseph Doble and also Isaac Doble as he makes his way out to the corner there. Alex Everett coming on through in the Prime class now as he makes his way down the back straight. We also do have it moving to the Prime class with Matthew Addy after cutting his way into the Pro class at the end of Season 4, but it's been decided he's been moved back to Prime as he really has struggled in the Pro class this season, and the decision has been taken. And we're a little bit more comfortable now going back to the class he started his NXTCC career, and we'll have to wait and see. But definitely Addy has been a staple of the Prime class over previous seasons, and therefore I think he will feel a bit more at home there. The next gen with Sam Case's driver as he makes his way on through the S's, going through turn number 8 and up into 9. We also do have Fraser Elphick, who we mentioned earlier, who's been moved to the Prime class. And Fraser Elphick right now for SRL with NXTGEN, coming on through turn 8, but runs a bit wide there. And I wonder when it's potentially to let other drivers on through. Perhaps he was just trying to steer clear there and be safe. He does safely rejoin, so I think that's a bit of a sensible decision there from Elphick, just to simply get out of the way. Perhaps he felt as though he wasn't on a strong lap and decided to get back into a pack of cars, get a bit of a tow going as he makes his way across the line. We also do have the shift for Sam Smith, who's moved from Pro to Prime, and well, for Sam Smith, we'll have to try and find him out of the circuit. I do believe he's currently out there putting in some laps, or people can't quite see him at the moment, but Sam Smith, and here he is, Sam J. Smith, the iRacing esports driver, making his way up towards Quebec corner right now, right on the tail of one of the P739 Mosport machines, as he comes on through the corner there, a bit close for comfort. I reckon he might have caught up a bit too soon in the run if he's trying to use the toe for the entirety of the lap. We wish our drivers been demoted to the Prime class and the best start on their debut in the Class A, and of course the likes of Ben Altrier and also Isaac Doe and Alex Meredith. It means now there's plenty more company for them to contend with, and will that see a shake up in the Prime class? We will have to wait and see. As the drivers make the way on and through, and indeed there you can see right now the exchange positions there between Smith and was one of our P739 drivers, and I believe that maybe Stephen Fry, who's right next to him. Indeed that is Fry there as they make the way on down the back straight, flashing lights as well from one of the drivers behind there. I think everyone trying to get the message through to one another, don't impede me, I'm on a lap. And indeed the stewards have said to drivers that if you are not on a lap and the drivers come up behind you and you can see they're on a fast lap, do let them go. But speaking of a driver who is on a fast lap right now, Alex Meredith has just gone provisional pole, and that for the RD Simsport driver is a 26.705 as he makes his way on through turn 1 and up towards turn number 2. He's 1.5 tenths faster than Jamie Dory, currently with 5 minutes on the board for this qualifying session. Still 10 minutes to go, and plenty of time to get set, it must be said. But as they make the way through turn number 2 and up into 3, we do see a question from John Meredith there in the YouTube chat, which is, would a single seater fare well around this circuit, or is it more suited to certain cars? Well, it's funny you should mention that, in the fact that this circuit originally was seen as more of a single seater open wheel circuit. Indeed, that's where it did make its debut, I do believe, all the way back in the years of the 1960s, 1970s. My history isn't too great on the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, so I do apologise for that, but I believe it originally opened up as seeing a single-seater open-wheel racing. But this circuit has played host to a whole variety of series over the course of its history, including IMSA, including touring car racing, also a little bit of lower feeder series formula-style cars. So therefore, it's not really suited to one particular car type. Indeed, it's a circuit that's been underestimated in what it can deliver. But more and more now, this circuit is coming to prominence in the fact it's a great spectator experience, because all the greenery you see on the simulator, indeed drivers normally do have spectators who get very close to the barriers there and can normally see their fans waving, and this is why the circuits as well. If you can pitch up a tent by the side of the circuit, you can probably spectate from it, because they make the way through. There's not too many grandstands around here, but it definitely is one that's made for the fans and the drivers alike. As we do see Meredith crossing the line this time, he's going even faster by looks things, at 26.359, and that doubles his advantage now to Dan Mould by what is 2 tenths to make it 3.5 tenths as he makes his way on through. And as he does so, we say hello there to Mark Kennedy. Says, evening chaps, hopes everything's going well. It's all going well, thank you, Mark, and I hope you're doing well as well. Although I do have to ask, why can't we see you on circuit, Mark, from Full Tilt Motorsport? As we do look to Ben Altrier here, one of his teammates, as Altrier makes his way through turn number 1. And we also do say hello to Jono Cook in the YouTube chat there, and a good evening to you, Jono. I hope you're doing well, and it's always great to have you tuning in. And as we do see Altrier making his way on through, we're having to deal with the fact he's got the second place success ballast in the Prime class, and that's going to be worth the region of about 23 kilograms of weight in the car. And as he makes his way through turn number 3, he's going to be feeling that way, there's no doubt about it. But coming on through the right-hander and up towards turns 4 and 5 he goes. We will very shortly, as we promised, you'll be getting on board lap with one of our drivers, and I do believe it is going to be none other than our 2-time champion Jamie Dory in the Audi RS3, the Audi tipped to be one of the stronger cars around here. We'll tell you more about that very shortly, but right now let's jump on board with the NXTGEN Racing Pink driver as he comes on through the final corner and goes onto a flying lap. He's making his way out of the final corner, building his way towards turn number 1, and here it's about as braking as late as possible and just trailing off the brakes gradually in 5th gear before powering out and up the hill he goes, carrying the speed up there, using plenty of exit curves. He makes his way into turn number 2, and here, where's the apex? Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, and there it finally is as he makes his way through the long right left-hander and up towards Quebec corner in turn number 3, and braking once again approximately this time about 70 metres from corner apex, but the apex so late in the day and you're going blind in 4th gear as he makes his way out the corner and now up towards turn number 4. As he makes his way on through, it's a downhill descent and completely blind into the apex curve there. You've got to have faith that your turning point's great, but as he settles the car down, lifts off the throttle and onto the brakes into Moss, coming all the way down to third gear for the Audi. The lowest gear we'll see here today from the German machinery, and as he makes his way out of Sterling Moss hairpin, well, Mordori decides to back off the car there, and I think feeling as though this lap has not been one to be happy with, so he decides to bring it to a halt, and instead of staying on board with the lap here, as I think in fact he's letting Benjamin McCluskey close up behind and get into the tow, and he makes his way on down the back straight. Looking good right now is Dory for what could be a top 10 position on this grid, given the fact he is currently at P4, but as he brings his way on through. Meanwhile, behind him with McCluskey, we do look a little bit further afield to none other than Duncan Moraes, who moves his way up to P22, the Goldwing Motorsports driver. A nice lap there from the Prime driver. And for the uninitiated, if you're wondering how can we tell who our Primes and Pros are on the timing tower, well, you'll notice that some drivers have a green stripe against the name, they're the Pros, and meanwhile those who have a pink-purple stripe against the name, such as Duncan Moraes here, they're your Pro-Ams, and you'll see that as well when we do highlight them in the racing. You'll also be able to see on their door boards and also the window banners where the Primes do have a distinct Prime logo put on top there, as you can see as our driver makes his way on past, as he makes his way down towards turn number 4. Why are we expecting the Audis to be strong here, I hear you ask, because we did mention that or alluded to it only moments ago. Well, the reason we're expecting the Audis to be strong is that this is a circuit where you do see a lot of use of the higher gear range in these touring car racing class machines, and when it comes to gears in excess of 4th, that's where the Audi is incredibly strong. It's also a car that's got a lot of punch out the corners in the low speed gears. Meanwhile, at the other end of the spectrum, the Honda, the handling car, will go very well, particularly in the first half of the lap, given the extended nature of those sweepers at turns 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and therefore we're expecting the Honda to be the king of the first half of the lap, as long as the driver carries the speed from apex to apex. So if they get it right, they should be right on course, and then it's just about carrying enough speed to offset the lack of top end speed that the Honda has, making their way down the Marion Andretti straightaway and up into the S's. But as Moraes makes his way on through the final corner, he's on for a personal best sector 1 and 2, sector 3 not an improvement, but he's currently P27, and it's not an improvement in the end. I think being impeded slightly coming on through the S's there, or just off slight line, but as he makes his way out. Meanwhile, we talked about the Honda, we talked about the Audi, but what about our Hyundais, including the Hyundai Elantra? And the Elantra around here, a very strong one-lap pace car. We say that all the time regarding the Elantra because it is true. This is the car that's made for qualifying pace. However, in the race conditions, this is the car that does wear into its front tyres more than most, and that's why you see normally our Elantra drivers run a severely tempered brake balance in terms of they move that brake bias as far as possible towards the rear of the car, and that's why they look sometimes very dicey under braking into heavy braking zones in particular, or even more gradual trail braking zones. You'll see the rear of the car almost snap loose for a front engine front wheel drive car, and that's how rear with the bias they're running is. But as we do see Fry making his way out of the final corner, currently P19 on for a season best qualifying performance in fact, as we see more promotions. Alan McCain up to P6, meanwhile Sam Smith up to P16, also Dan Moll back up to P2, and also what is, I do believe, some further improvements for some other drivers there. I believe there was an improvement for Jaroslav Samula as he crosses the line at 26.417 for Samula, and well, the Elantra here will be very strong under race conditions so long as those front tyres are managed well, but if those front tyres go beyond the cliff, if you will, that's what they'll start to lose out. We are expecting track temperature here to be quite aggravating for the Hyundai drivers, and in fact as we do bring out that weather on the right hand side of your screen, you'll notice right now 24 degrees ambient temperature, meanwhile track temperature 47 degrees centigrade. It is a boiling circuit, and with that will mean the Hyundais in the final quarter of the race, or the final third, will definitely start to lose their pace compared to their rivals. But as we do look from Stephen Fry to one of our Veloster drivers, our Hyundai Veloster drivers, and that will be in the form of Dan Moll for SRL with NXTGEN currently P2. Well, this is a car as well that goes very strongly in most places it goes, because it is a jack of all trades, master of none, and that means it doesn't really have any particular strengths, but it doesn't have any particular weaknesses, and that should go well for the Veloster in the fact it should be quite smooth for the opening half of the lap, but on down the back straight it won't be the fastest, but it won't be the slightest either, so therefore the Veloster drivers could definitely bring some surprises, and that's why Mold's currently P2, in the fact he's making the most of the car that doesn't have any weaknesses and getting the most out of it already as he makes his way onto another lap, and we jump on board here with the SO and NXTGEN driver for the remainder of it. So after making his way through turn 1 and up towards turn 2 at Clayton, and here braking about 170 metres on the effective quarter apex, but you can see they just balance the car nice and tight. You've got to let it creep away slightly as he makes his way out now towards turn number 3, and into the braking zone he goes, making his way past John Higgins Jr. there as he heads on through Canada Corner, and then he gets it nicely hooked up, third gear on exit, powers up to fourth gear, absolutely smooth as you like, as he now heads in towards turn number 4, turning on in there, just avoiding the grass. He comes on down, lifts off the throttle before slamming on the anchors into Moss corner, and then letting the car go deep before bringing it back together. And as he comes on through the right-hander, now onto the back straight. Flat out all the way now as he builds his way up through the gearbox, up into fourth gear already, upwards to 100 miles an hour. By the end of this, he'll be pushing towards 150 as he heads on down here with the distant toe of one of the Crystal Autosport machines. I believe that's Alex Everett in front. Now up to fifth gear, shortly going towards sixth gear as he hits 130 miles an hour and looking over to his left-hand side now, getting ready for his final major braking zone. And a car in the way there, that'll be one of the NXTGEN Racing pink cars. He brakes 100 meters from corner apex down to fourth gear into turn number 8, and now braking immediately here for turn number 9, third gear. Coming into the final corner, swings to go to left to open up the right hand of White's corner. It's a complete lap and do it all over again. And note again, there's barely any visible brake markers in this circuit. As a driver, you've got to make your own markers. Alternatively, you've got certain muscle memory, but it's a smooth lap from Dan Mould, and it's pole position. We're 26.250. And to be fair, we always say smooth means fast. And it didn't look a dramatic lap, that, to be fair. It actually looked a slow lap, but that's how quickly the SRL driver of Dan Mould is going. I can see their Toxic Munchkin in the YouTube chat right now cheering on the SRL team, and therefore be very pleased to see Mould on pole. There's no doubt about it. And Adam Delman just next to him right now as SRL looking to lock out the front row of this grid with 6,000s between the two of them, and then the best part of which is a further 400s to Sam Smith, who right now in the Pro-Am class for the first time this season is absolutely flying out there, and as he makes his way into Moss corner with the Elantra driver right now with Luciano Vitford just behind him in terms of the times by 4,000s, and then it's a further 1.5 to Alex Meredith. This qualifying session is wide open right now in terms of who's going to be on pole in any of the classes. Indeed, could we see a Pro-Am sneak their way onto the front row of the grid before all is said and done? Well, I think someone will be definitely keen to see that happen, but as they make their way on through, we do see their Mark Kent clarifying, taking a break from iRacing, but also have COVID. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that, Mark, on both counts, but I hope you're feeling better soon. And if you're not feeling great today, hopefully this race can turn that frown upside down and bring a smile to your face. But as we do see Sam Smith making his way through, checker flag now waving. Qualifying is almost over. Can Smith find a way to improve here, given he's currently P3? Meredith is only 200s off, but in the pits, so Meredith won't be putting any more laps in. But of course, Smith would like to go higher than this, or he's not going to be able to. But is it enough for Pro-Am pole? Meanwhile, Dan Mould has just crossed the line, did not improve. A lot of tries making the way on through here. We've still got more to come, including Wayne Douglas, who's going to be one of the very last drivers to get a lap on the board. And in fact, we've got most of our field making the way on through already. And the biggest surprise of all, Ben Altria, who's currently P35, as Daniel Martin makes it pole position just in front of a 26.172. Altria across the line, P35 is the best he's going to be able to do. But right now, the RD Simsport driver Martin absolutely surprising everyone right at the end of this session. Meanwhile, we've also got Daniel Downing heading on down the back straight. He's currently P30, but Altria there, and when we say he's P35, he's P35 by less than 9.5 tenths. This qualifying session right now absolutely sardine tin packed in terms of how close they are on lap times here. Even a tenth gained could give you the best part of 5 to 10 places right now in this qualifying session. But as we continue to watch here, Daniel Downing making his way on through, currently P12 in the Pro-Am class, P30 overall. Got a couple of drivers making their way across the line, including Jamie Dory, albeit I believe Dory has not improved. And as we do see, where's Downing heading to line? Wayne Douglas does not improve either. What can Downing do here? He does not improve, stays P30, and with that, I believe we may have one or two more drivers. In fact, I think these drivers are on cooldown laps right now, given the time that's expired. That is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and it is Daniel Martin who takes his maiden pole position in the NXTCC, with Dan Mould on the front row with him, and Adam Delman P3. So the 1-2 for SRO and NXTGEN does not come to transpire today, and Sam Smith, meanwhile, just behind P4 on the grid, will be starting on pole position for the Pro-Am class on his debut in the class after his recent demotion. But meanwhile, Nick Clemens makes his way into the pits, and look at that, a top 10 separated by 2 tenths. I mean, that's incredible. We have seen it close all season over the last 5 seasons, but we have never seen it this close. But without further ado, it's time to head to the grid. So the drivers make their way onto the grid. This is how they'll line up for our first race of the day in round number 4 of Season 5 of the NXTCC, sponsored by IMB Racewear. Daniel Martin takes pole position for RD Simsport, joined on the front row by SRL NXTGEN's Dan Mould. Behind him on row number 2, it's Adam Delman, who starts P3, joined by Sam Smith, your prime pole sitter for iRacing Esports. Luciano Vitford starts P5 ahead of Alex Meredith, with Jaroslav Savula and Reese Watt on row number 4. And then it's Rafael Zarsch and Alan McCain starting on the 5th row to complete your top 10. Season best qualifying from both drivers there, well done to them both. Mikey Doble starts P11 for Doble Sim Racing, joined as best of the rest there by Jamie Doria on the 6th row of the grid. And on row number 7, it's Gavin Gardner and Matthew Addy, with Wojciech Swirydowicz and Paul Scott on row number 8. Row 9 goes to Russell Fowler and John Higgins Jr., with row 10 round off the top 20 in the hands of Martin Shirley and Wayne Douglas. And on row number 11, it's Nick Clemens and Benjamin McCluskey. We then have behind them on row number 12, Duncan Morais and Lee Horn, with late improvements there for both drivers, seeing them move up the order to a degree. And on row number 13, it's Paul Tanatachi for Affinity and Stephen Fry for P739 Motorsports, with both drivers having mixed fortunes. Fraser Elphick starts P27 on the 14th row ahead of Alex Everett, with the top 30 being completed by Isaac Doble and Daniel Downing. And then on row number 16, it's Sam Van Olst and Matthew Cheverton, with Mark Sykes starting P33 on the 17th row, and Jay Clay alongside him there in a season worst performance for Jay Clay in qualifying so far. Harley Bicknell will start P35 on the 18th row ahead of Ben Altria, and then behind them it will be Luke Jones and Ian Manners, with the top 40 being completed by Joe Sedol and Craig Tillerston, James Pascal and Jonathan Collins P41, P42, and then Peter Greenwood and Gabriel Yilmaz complete your qualifying positions P43 and P44 out of our 44 car grid. Well, that's everybody set, ladies and gentlemen. We are only moments away from the lights out and away sequence here at the Mosport circuit for the first time today. Daniel Martin on the left, Dan Mould on the right, and with only 3, 2, 1, we're about to get the light sequence underway here for race number 1, and it is going to be 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for race number 1 of the day here as we resume the racing, and Daniel Martin gets a brilliant start off the line. Dan Mould tucks in, covering off Adam Delman as they make their way through the opening corner, but as they roar the way through, 1 abreast here as they come on through for the top 7. But meanwhile, further behind, more 2 wides playing out as Reese Watt looking for a move already on Alex Meredith. Gets it around the inside to outside here as they come on through. Van Nose Meredith who gets the place, and now coming into Clayton here, they've got to be careful. Cold tyres, cold brakes, too wide. It doesn't normally go at the best of times here, particularly in these frigid conditions at the start of the race as they make their way onto the race. Rafael Zarsch looking up the inside of Alan McCain, trying to go in. We've got a couple of cars off further back. We'll have to take a look back at shortly. But well, we can see Zarsch here right now, keeping Mikey Doble behind him as Jamie Doring looking up the inside of Doble as they make their way into turn number 4. Downhill they go. Onto the brakes they both rock. But who's going to be the one to roll out on top? As Dory, they're sliding on the rear end with a little bit of grass on the rear left tyre. But as they make their way out of Moss Corner, now coming onto the back straight they go. And it's still side by side between the two of them right now. And there's no love lost between them as they make their way down the back straight, but charging their way all the way up towards turn number 8. One of them's going to attempt to give way, and in the end it's Mikey Doble who can't quite keep the speed up versus the Audi Adori. But meanwhile, further back, John Higgins Jr. battling with Nick Clemens here, with Higgins Jr. under major pressure from the iRacing Esports drivers, pushing him along right now behind Paul Scott. So right now these two trying to work together, and meanwhile a bit more push and shove here from Matthew Sheraton on the back of Daniel Downing as they try to break away from Jay Calais, who tries to make it 3 wide but he can't do so. Onto the brakes they go in towards turn number 8, and we can see here defence underway from what is Downing. Sheraton on the outside to the inside now, puts him offline as they make their way through. Safety car has been deployed, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you for an instant at the start of the race into turn number 2, which we didn't quite catch on camera, but the safety car is out, and therefore all the drivers will race up to the start finish line, and then we'll have to bring the race into a sudden stop. As they make their way into turn number 1, everyone right now will be gradually backing off the throttle and calming things down immediately. An absolutely fast and frantic open lap here, and it gives us time to take a brief breather. But as it does so, well, let's give you a recap of that top 10 so far. As we can see, Daniel Martin, the RD Simsport driver, has caught the safety car. So it is Martin ahead of Mould, followed by Delman, then prime leader Sam Smith. He stayed P4, ahead of Vitford, then Sabula, then Meredith, your second place prime driver right now, P7 overall, head of Watt, then McCain, your third place prime driver iRacing Esports, and it's Rafael Zarsch to complete your top 10. Behind them, best of SP11 at Jamie Dory. But the big question on everyone's lips right now is what exactly happened to trigger off the safety car? Well, let's take a look back at that race start from the blimp camera. So as our drivers got underway here, you will see them at a distance as they charged away across the line. Now, of course, they will be at a distance for now, but once they make the way through turn 1 and 2, we get a closer camera shot here of them as they make the way through, and wonder we'll see this perspective. The whole field concertinas into the opening corner, and for the most part, too wide are plenty there in the midfield, it would seem. Some great battles going on there. I do believe Benjamin McCluskey and one of the Goldwing Motorsport drivers getting close, but here it all goes wrong into turn number 2 for a couple of drivers. Somebody losing the rear end out of RD Simsport, but looks as though they survived it just about. And in fact, no, there was contact further on behind, and well, everyone coming into the scene of the incident, as well the RD Simsport cars. I believe Wayne Douglas being caught up in that, plus also Benjamin McCluskey and the Goldwing Motorsport driver he was with. So that's it at a distance as we saw everything play out. But now, what exactly happened a bit closer down to terra firma? We jump on board with Wayne Douglas here, and this may explain a bit of the story. And I think he was caught up with Martin Shirley, who started on the right of him, slightly out of camera shot there, as you can see. So Douglas gets a good start on the back of Shirley in towards turn 1, battling back and forth, but Douglas can't get in. So he looks around the outside here, a bit of contact on the rear of Shirley's car, and well, that rear quarter panel on the Honda definitely bruised already. Now they made the way out turn 1, all's fine, and remember these guys at the time were battling inside the top 20 towards P15. Made the way into turn 2 into Clayton. Oh, a mistake there from Shirley. The rear brake bias, the cold tyres catching the car out, but does well to control it. Douglas there getting it wrong. Meanwhile, as he came on in and contact between the two of them, that sets off the chain reaction. McCluskey comes in, Lee Horn gets caught up in that as well. You'll briefly notice Douglas is able to continue, but a nightmare moment there as we return it back to the live picture, not back to the live pictures, back to the replay pictures once again. But this time we look at it from Benjamin McCluskey, who was a little bit further back in the whole scene of the incident. And as they made the way away with the external cameras, I think we'll film the last bit. You can see that already, that battling between Douglas and Shirley into the opening corner as they made the way down. Now McCluskey enjoying a side-by-side battle here with what was Duncan Morais, the Prime driver, and the next-gen Pink driver, really going to tow. But as they made the way into the opening corner, this was Shirley who loses the rear end of the car slightly and catches it. But as they make the way on through out of turn 2, a tiny tap there that sets both cars off. The iRacing Esports driver does well to dodge it, but then Douglas coming back across the road, McCluskey gets caught, and in fact Lee Horn does not get tapped there at all, and most drivers do make their way through, apart from Duncan Morais and Benjamin McCluskey, unfortunately are wounded as well. But as we return it to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, well, we do see our drivers making the way on around behind the safety car here. We still do have the safety car in effect for the time being, but that was the major incident on this opening lap of the race here, race number 1 at Mosport. Beyond that, we have had a relatively calm start when it comes to incidents here at a circuit that's no stranger to having incidents in the past. But as Daniel Martin there follows the safety car, they charge their way on down the back straight. I do believe the safety car is going to be in at the end of this lap from what I've had whispered in my ear, and as they make their way in towards turn number 8, well, I say whispered, shouted in my ear by race control, given the fact that's normally how they have to tell me things when we're midway up through covering the racing. But Daniel Martin already making his way in towards turn number 9, and as they come through, safety car is in, so Daniel Martin will back the field up, but when will he go? We'll find out as we get the restart. As he makes his way up to speed, it's lights out and away we go once again as Daniel Martin controls the restart into turn number 1, and as they all come down into lap number 4, Sam Smith right now very close to the back of Delman as they roar their way on towards Clayton. Now up the hill and in towards the braking zone as they all come on in. You can see Vitford there as well, looking for an opportunity but can't quite find it at the moment. And as they made the way on through, no real change inside the top 10. Meanwhile, a bit further back, Reece Watt here right now looking for that move on the inside of Alex Meredith. In fact, Meredith leaving the door open. The JW Motorsport driver, Howard, gets the door shut just in time in front of him by Alex Meredith as they make the way in towards turn number 4. And indeed right now McCain and Zarsham both eager to try and get to the fight here as they all come down towards turn number 5. Forward's the fourth time of asking, but under braking there you can see Zarsham and McCain both battling for position, both defending against one another. Meanwhile Horn now looking up the inside of Clemens into the 5 hairpin, and as they head on out of the corner, Zanatachi just behind as well. So everyone here eager to make progress. Of course this race has been shortened in terms of number of race laps, so therefore for drivers in particular worried about tyre wear, such as our Hyundai Elantra drivers, they can now go a bit more aggressively for the remainder of this race compared to how they would have fared on 14 laps. But as they charge it down the back straight, well, Horn up right now under pressure from Zanatachi and meanwhile Clemens right there in front and giving him the tow. But is it enough in the battle of what is the Honda versus the Veloster? which seems to be this time around as they make the way through turn number 8 and into time. Again, look at how they're drifting under braking there in towards the apex. It shows you those tyres are just not up to temperature, and the rearward brake bias as well, just upsetting the rear of the car, but it gives the extra rotation as Horton there takes plenty of apex curve at turn number 10, a bit too much of the suspension comes crashing down. That's not going to do the car any good as they make the way on through, but as they come down towards lap number 5, will mean while we do look to Mikey Doble here, jumping on board with the Doble Sim Racing drivers. He's got Matthew Addy for company right behind, chasing after Jamie Dory and Raffles Arsch, and right now these guys all fighting for a place inside the top 10, but most importantly fighting for a spot inside the top 12, which is where the reverse grid positions will be taken from, P6 through to P12. So right now Mikey Doble in the last of the yellow dual positions, and that's a nice place to be because you can't guarantee you're going to be on that reverse grid, but having a chance to be there is always welcome as he makes his way down in towards turn number 5. You can see they're fighting at the steering wheel under braking from 4 into 5, and right now trying to stay close to Dory as well as Arsch goes very deep on corner exit. That's going to give Dory every opportunity here to try and make a move, but in the end the excess weight in the car does hold the Audi back to a degree. But you can see Dory looking to the outside here. He wants the outside to inside run in towards turn number 9. He doesn't want to be on the outside of 9, given the way the apex is tightened. And as they make the way out towards the S's here, we stand ball with Mikey Doble as he looks to try and pick who's he going to side with. He's going to side with Dory here as they onto the brakes. Dory gets a nose out under braking. Zarsh still there on the inside. Dory can't turn in yet. He's got to leave the door open for Zarsh, and he does so. Zarsh there compliant as they make the way into turn number 9, but he's still there looking with a nose on the inside into White's corner at 10. Can't quite do it as the back out, and Jamie Dory does make the move happen. Now Doble will pick up the momentum here coming out of turn number 10. He'll look for the move into turn 1. Can he get it done into the opening corner? No, he can't. He thinks about it, almost puts the dummy in there, doesn't go for it in the end, just trying to keep Zarsh on his balls. And as he makes his way in towards turn number 2, he pulls to his feet, we should say, charging in towards the left-hander here, going into that braking zone. Right now Doble not able to find his way on through, but meanwhile looking back to Zamatachi, still up there with Lee Horn, and they're a bit further back. Also some great battling kicking off between Jay Calais and Matthew Sheraton as these two fight for P12 in the Prime class, and as they make the way down for a left hand. We are hearing that Mark Sykes has been involved in an incident which has seen him have to come into the pit lane for repair work on the car, but with the fast repair he'll likely be out of the pits again in short notice, albeit from the back of the field. But Jay Calais losing out a bit in the understeer there coming through turn number 3 and having to catch the car in time. Meanwhile one driver right now who's really having to try and battle his way through, Luke Jones, with his first target with Joseph Doble just in front, and Joseph Doble having a difficult day here and starting from towards the back of the field, and right now the pro driver out of sorts and not enjoying this Mosport circuit. But Jones meanwhile looking to try and make some more progress before all is said and done as these drivers head up towards turn number 8 once again. But as they charge their way on down the back straight, we look from them back to the very front of the field. Let's not forget we've got our race leader here, Daniel Martin, who is still being hounded, harassed and harried by what is none other than Dan Mould. And as they make the way through turn number 9 into 10, well, right now the RD Sport driver in number 70 looking to hold on, albeit with Mould and Delmont right behind. SRL right now trying to build up a potential 1-2 move here as Dan Mould sits the fastest lap of the race at 26.351, 7/10 faster. Meanwhile Jamie Dory at 26.301, he raises the bar for the fastest lap, and of course the fuel coming out of these cars, the tyres really coming alive now. The Honda drivers in particular, they normally take 5 to 6 laps to get the tyres up to temperature depending on the circuit, so expect the Hondas to really come to an element of their own at this point in the race. But then again Mould in the Veloster, there's one thing we've seen from Mould all season, and that is regardless how much weight he's got in the car, the conditions, he makes this Veloster go like nobody else can as he makes his way up towards turn number 5. But as he does so, well, right now not quite close enough to look for a move. Meanwhile Joseph Sabula looking for the move of Bitford into turn 5, tries to get his nose in, Bitford covers him off, and the Semper Racing driver from Poland, well goodness me, and that's a bit of a mistake there from Smith, who goes very deep coming out of Mosport 1, and as a result loses the place to Luciano Bitford. But now will he be under further pressure as we ride on board and look back from the rear of the Prime Esports car, the number 60 of Bitford going down the back straight. But look at the speedy Elantra as they build the way out through the gearboxes. That Elantra able to pull on its rivals, and as they make the way in towards the S's, well right now Sabula right there and waiting, so is Alex Meredith. They're all queuing up here for an opportunity for a P5 overall. But Alex Meredith in particular would love to take the lead of the Prime class off of Smith, and Smith in return would like to make sure it stays in his hands, and they make the way through turn number 9, getting so close there, bumper to bumper as they make the way through White's corner. But Bitford goes a bit deep, and as he does so, Smith's going to look to the inside as they make the way to the opening corner, but he can't quite find a way through. But meanwhile, here comes Sabula, up the inside he goes, looking to try and make some progress here. Can he do it? No, he cannot in the end. Smith able to carry the speed. It's not the inside you want into turn 1, it's the outside. You've got more room to play with. But as they make the way in towards turn number 2, Sabula right now trying everything at this to try and find a way through. knocking on the door, left, right and centre, but nobody's answering as he makes his way in towards turn at number 3. Meanwhile, further back, Wojciech Swirydowicz here, having made some early progress, starting P15 on the grid. He's up to P14, but from there, he's not really making much more progress at this time. And I think right now, the number 80 driver just having to manage the success bars, but also keeping his eyes on his rivals just in front. And knowing that the top 15 overall is where the points are scored in the overall championship, which the pros are eligible for, as are the primes. Meanwhile, the primes have their own class championship as well, but the pros have nothing of the sorts. Indeed, they're battling amongst everyone, and that's why for the pros, they need to battle their way past every pro-am and pro in equal measure. But as they make the way down the back straight here, long line of cars astern, everybody in the tow of one another, so therefore it all comes down to what you as the driver can do in terms of picking up the speed in the tow and trying to look for a move. Speaking of looking for a move, Matthew Addy there pulling out of the tow to look around the outside of Mikey Doble. He switches the inside now, trying to put some pressure on the two-time champion, but the next Jim Stamp Case's driver not able to find it in the 50-cent, and the Briton right now being made to wait his turn. But as they come on through, meanwhile, we have had a change of position a little bit further down the order, I do believe, with what is, I believe, Clemens and Isaac Doble swapping places. And in fact, we look back here, it's 2 by 2 as they come through the final couple of corners. In fact, that's almost 3 wide behind, as Wojciech Knowles goes very side by side with Alex Everett, and behind them, Daniel Downing trying to get into the mix. Well, Clemens does fall behind what is Isaac Doble in the end, but Alex Everett really getting into the mix there, and we take a look back at how exactly that all played out. Was the run down the back straight here, and what Isaac Doble pulling Van Ulster long by looks of things, but Clemens on the outside. Now you'll see as they make the way into the corner, Van Ulster trying to stay in this fight, but getting boxed in by Clemens and also Doble, so therefore he has to back out into 9, but Clemens on the inside. Oh my goodness, contact there between Downing and Everett, which sends Everett sideways towards Van Ulster, and how on earth the 3 of them managed to survive that? That's credit to the drivers. You'll see that Downing immediately backed off, but as we now return to the live racing pitches, once again this fight's not over yet, as Everett right now all over the place, trying to defend, trying to attack at the same time. And they say a good defense is a good offense, but the one thing about this right now is that Everett's got to shoot between a rock and a hard place, and he push forward and defend from behind. And as they make the way down the Marion Jersey straightaway here, well, no difference between them at the moment, as the Honda drive being swarmed by the Goldwing Motorsports guys. And as they head up towards turn number 8, it's an Audi and a Lancia that are sandwiching the Honda, and the Honda right now making its straight line speed deficit absolutely felt to its driver. But meanwhile, Clemens here having to defend versus West San Manuel, so they made the way into the S's. Isaac Doble starting to pull away. He's up into P8 to the prime class, so Isaac Doble now started to limit the damage given the success ballast in the car. But as they come on through the corners here, Clemens right now absolutely being hounded as we ride on board with the P23 try. You can see Manuel's very close, goes the outside here, wants the inside of turn number 2. Clemens will defend it as hard as he can, absolutely drag the car through the corner, a bit of contact to the rear there off of what it is Clemens' car from Van Ulster push him along as they make the way to turn number 2, looking up the inside, but it's a very late apex, giving the space however, and as they make the way through, Clemens goes deep. As a result, this could be a move into 3, but he's going to have to go the long way round as Van Ulster if he wants to get this done. Side by side they're going to break it. Clemens has the right to the inside line, he can dictate the flow of the corner, and he does exactly that as they make the way off of the apex, and Clemens holds on again by 2/10. They make the way down, but meanwhile we must look a little bit further up the field. As right now, Wojciech and Mikey Doble fighting hard for what is P11 as they head on down the back straight here, and they were side by side coming out of the Moss corner, and now down the Marion Jersey straightaway. You can see there Matthew Addy trying to make it 3 wide in the run in towards the S's. Doble's not got the speed, and meanwhile Swirydowicz is now getting close here versus championship rival. So this has really worked out for the Semper Racing team as they head into the braking zone. Zarsh defends the inside, Addy looking around the outside. Can he carry it all the way to the inside at 9? He's going to try and go for it. This is a prime position for Addy, and indeed he's going to get it done by looks of things. And Zarsh now on the inside into turn number 10 as the defend versus Doble. It's Swirydowicz meanwhile getting involved in the medley of all this, and as they make the way across line onto lap number 11, Doble looking around the outside, Zarsh on the inside into turn number 1, really tight there Zarsh. Meanwhile contact with his teammate Swirydowicz, it's just a graze, and as they make the one through, Swirydowicz does come on through in the end. Zarsh has to step aside, I think conscious of the fact he does want to interrupt the flow of his teammate, but in doing so he's going to let Gavin Garner up the inside into turn number 2, and what was looking to be a great defence of Rafael Zarsh has now turned into a nightmare, losing the best part of 4 places in the space of only 5 corners. But as they come out of turn at number 3, the long line of cars continues to queue up here with all the battling between these drivers as they make the way onwards towards Moss Hairpin for the 11th time here in this first race of the day, charging away on through the downhill left-hander at turn number 4. Nothing between these guys at the moment as they head in towards the braking zone, and all fighting for a spot inside the top 12, and therefore the possibility of being on that first reverse grid of the day in race number 2. As they come on through, and let's not forget we've also got some racing further on down the order, and in particular we do have with John Higgins Jr. P18 with Lee Horn behind and Paul Scott in front. And Paul Scott right now, the prime driver, running in P6 of the class, trying to keep the two pros behind him as he makes his way down the back straight. And looking good there in the Audi versus the Veloster and also the Honda of what is Higgins Jr. and Horn respectively as they head in towards the next braking zone. But as they do, will mean, well, Daniel Downing here also looking to try and go for a move versus Dick Clivett. So he's been trying for this for the last couple of laps. Can he get it this time for Goldwyn Motorsport? Matthew Sheraton inching close in what is the battle for P11 in the prime class. Remember, our prime drivers score points in class down to P15. So therefore these positions mean a lot to the prime drivers as they make their way in towards turn at number 10. And Clivens right now just continues to frustrate Downing. Albeit goes very wide out of white, so that's going to be able to get Downing on the inside here. But can the Goldwyn Motorsport driver outbrake his rivals? They head on through. Well, he's going to be there on the inside of one. Clivens meanwhile goes a bit deep, goes excessively deep, runs to the grass. Sure, that's going to give Downing enough as they make the way over the rise. But meanwhile Sheraton comes on through. He gets in front of Clivens just in the nick of time. And the Aztec Racing driver now comes on down all over the back of his rivals. They make the way through, and we ride on board here with the 390 drivers. He heads onto the brakes at turn number 3. And trying to be bold there with the brakes on the Honda. We know the Honda's got the best brakes of them all on the grid, but the thing is, there's being bold and then there's being overly aggressive, and Sheraton knows the difference between the two of them, and this time not going for it as they make their way down through 4 and into 5, and with the heads up towards Mosport here, onto the brakes. Clivens 5 and 10 behind. Meanwhile, Sheraton getting very close. You can see Downing now really starting to struggle to get the car to stop, and I think the front tyres of that Elantra might be starting to go off the proverbial cliff, given the fact we've only got a couple of laps left, even with the safety car. But Downing really being made to work this car all the way through today's race. But as they make the way up towards turn number 8, and it's only the first race of the day, we should point out, making the way down the back straight here. Sheraton in the tow, looking close. Which way is he going to go? Is he going to go left or right? He's going to look to the left. Benyon can't quite find it. A bit of contact to the rear, further contact to the rear. Oh, what is Downing's car here? And as they make the way towards turn at number 9, Downing just parking it on apex, and Sheraton being made to wait. But he's not going to wait any longer. Looks like inside there's contact between the two of them, and it's going to be a move made by Sheraton, albeit with a bit of contact that pushes Downing wide. Downing's not going to be too pleased with that, and that's going to release the floodgates here, because it does mean that Joseph Doble, also Jay Calais, have made the way through, and Downing losing the best part of 3 places for the price of one little bit of contact as they make their way in towards turn number 2. But meanwhile, looking from them back up towards the very front of the field, it's still Martin versus Mould versus Delmont, your top 3, as they're on the penultimate lap right now, making their way into Moss Corner. And Daniel Martin here absolutely putting up a stoic set of pace in order to keep the 2 SRO Next Gen cars behind, and the RD Supersport driver right now being matched every step of the way from each lap to the next, as meanwhile Sam Smith still holding on to P4 behind and keeping the hold of that prime lead position in P4. The iRacing Sports driver here keeping his head down and pushing on as much as he can as he makes his way on through turns 7 and 8. Only one more lap awaits him after this one, and what will be a maiden prime win. But as he comes in towards turn at number 8, he's done very well to keep Luciano Bitfoot behind him, and also Jaroslav Sabula. And Sabula right now looking closer and closer for what is that P5 overall as they make the way in towards White's Corner. The car ducking and diving there on the suspension as he comes out. White flag waves. It's the final lap of this first race, ladies and gentlemen, and Bitfoot right now to go defensive as much as he dares to do so to turn 1. Sabula looks to the cutback. Bitfoot parks on the apex there and says, no you don't. Sabula meanwhile thinks not going to take no for an answer. Bitfoot's going to defend hard on the inside, but meanwhile look at Jamie Dory. Dory looking around the outside. This is incredibly bold from Dory. That's one place you don't overtake into turn number 2 is on the outside, but he's going to try and cut back into 3. Looking around the outside again versus Sabula into correct corner, and as he comes on around the long right-hander, it's close between the two of them, just about giving each other enough room to breathe. But as they make the way down the hill and in towards turn number 5, well, Dory right now on the inside of 4, he's got this done. Surely there's no way Sabula can come back from this, or is there? No, in the end, Dory does get it done, but what a run and what a setup for a move there for the Next Gen Peak driver as he makes his way out of Boss Corner. And can he take on Bitfoot now with only a straight and 3 corners to go? Or as they make the way up towards turn number 8. Meanwhile, we do look to Daniel Martin. The RD Supersport driver still holding on as he makes his way on through the curvature at turn number 7. He's got Mould right there with him, and Mould right now looking around the outside to inside. He's going to go for it. It's going to be the last couple of quarters here to settle the win of this race. But it looks like Martin holding on for now as Mould goes a little bit deep. It costs him his line as they make the way in towards turn number 10. And as they come through the final corner, I think Martin's going to do it as he heads the line. Daniel Martin will take the checker flag and will be your winner of race number 1 and a damn Mould P2, Adam Delman P3. Here's your prime winner, P4 overall, Sam Smith for iRacing Esports, and then Luciano Vitford does hold off Jamie Dory to line in the battle for P5. Meanwhile, P12 to complete the eligible reverse grid positions. It's a P4 in prime class for Matthew Addy. We've still got plenty more drivers to come to the finish line, ladies and gentlemen, so it's not over yet. Including Joseph Doble finishes P28 ahead of Daniel Downing and Luke Jones P30. And then even further back, we do have Ian Manners shortly coming to line for JW Motorsport. Today, P35 just behind Martin Shirley there, and then it will be Wayne Douglas, Duncan Myers, and then it'll be Craig Tillerston a little bit later on. He'll be coming on home P38, or what will be at P80 in the prime class, ahead of Peter Greenwood, I do believe. And Peter Greenwood will be your last lead lap finisher, with what was there, I do believe, Harley Bicknell finishing P40 a lap down, and also James Pascal 2 laps down, and Gabriel Yilmaz will shortly be coming on through to finish a lap down at P41. But Peter Greenwood, your final lead lap finisher, P39 for P739 Motorsports. But what a first race of the day. But looking back to what was our race winner, Daniel Martin, the RD Sport driver, in the end paced himself incredibly well in this first race, and keeping Dan Mould and Adam Delman behind him every step of the way, no matter what they threw at him. And it was Sam Smith as well, managing the field, managing the pro pack behind him very well as well, and it's a great way to start off his time in the prime class. But meanwhile, we do have one driver still to finish this race. It's Gabriel Yilmaz. We look to him now. He may finish one lap down, but give him a round of applause, ladies and gents, for the heavily wounded Honda. He comes to line for Aztec Racing, P41 overall, P21 in the prime class. It's always great to see as many drivers as possible finish the race, even if they've not had a great one. But as all the drivers gradually make their way now into the pit lane, including Alex Everett here, who definitely was in the thick of it versus the Goldwing Motorsports drivers around him, including Sam Veloz, and also what was Daniel Downing. You can see a bit of a queue building up there in the pit lane as everybody comes to a stop, waiting to get into the pits there. Such is the flurry of action as they make the way on in. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, and here they are. So after a superb 14 laps of racing on our first race of the day at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in round 4 of Season 5 of the NXTCC, powered by IMB Racewear on iRacing, Daniel Martin, your overall winner for RD Sport by 3.5 tenths over SRL NXTGEN's Dan Mould and Adam Delmont, with the team of SRL NXTGEN making it a 2-3. Couldn't quite pull off the 1-2 in this first race, but still plenty of racing to come. The top 3 were only separated by 5.5 tenths. And then behind them by 1.7 seconds, Sam Smith to take the prime victory there for iRacing Esports in a great start to his prime campaign. 1.7 seconds clear of Luciano Vitford for Brabham Esports. And then Jamie Dory P6 just missing out in the top 5. The next gen pink driver guaranteed to be on the reverse grid, given the fact he finished in the first of the eligible positions, and that is 6th place. Jaroslav Sabula, P7 for Semper Racing, losing out in the late stage of the race, but always keeping in touch with Doria and Vitford, with Alex Meredith 2nd place in the prime class there, and a great way to kick off his day, we should say, for RD Sport, ahead of Reese Watt, and then Alan McCain completing your top 10 there behind the JW Motorsport driver for iRacing Esports, and with that completing the prime podium of Smith, Meredith and McCain. P11, Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing, doing well with the success ballast in the car to fight his way to P11 and keep Matthew Addy behind him. The next one was Sam Case's driver, taking 4th place of the prime class, and also the final reverse grid eligible position for race number 2 of P12. Wojciech Swirydowicz missing out on the reverse grid, but P13 is where he'll definitely start for the second race of the day, and the Semper Racing driver keeping Mikey Doble well and truly in his sights, with Gavin Garner P14 ahead of Russell Zarsht, and then Russell Fowler just missed out in the top 15, therefore overall points, but P16 there for Performance Link Esports, head of the next gen with Sam Case's pair of what was Paul Scott and John Higgins Jr. To complete the top 20, it was Lee Horn and Paul Zanatachi, ahead of Stephen Fry for P739 Motorsports, P21, and then Isaac Doble holding on versus Sam Van Olst, Alex Everett and Matthew Sheraton in the long line of prime drivers there to round off the top 25, ahead of Nick Clemens P26, with that late contact there between himself and his rivals upsetting his balance, and indeed upsetting a little bit of the race, but still keeping Jay Calais behind at the end, the P27 privateer who had to fight his way on through the field and gain 7 places in all. And then Joseph Dole P28 ahead of Daniel Dannon and Luke Jones, with Ben Altrier at P30 for Full Tilt Motorsport. A difficult start today in qualifying. That difficulty continues for the 504 driver in this first race, and Benjamin McCluskey P32 ahead of Fraser Elphick, with Martin Shirley, Ian Manners, Wayne Douglas, Duncan Reyes, Craig Tillerston, and then Peter Greenwood wrapping up all your drivers who finished on the lead lap, with Greenwood finishing P39 for P739 Motorsports. Then finishing lap down P40, Harley Bicknell for JW Motorsport ahead of Gabriel Yilmaz for Aztec Racing. 2 laps down, James Spazesgal for Aztec Racing, and then we did have the 2 retirees firstly for Whiskey Runners Racing at Joffa Collins, and also Mark Sykes for NXTGEN with Sam Cases there. So 44 starters, 42 finishers, and 39 of them being on the lead lap. Now, of course, ladies and gents, we've got plenty more racing to come here. Well, second race of the day around the corner. Sprint race number 2 coming up in approximately what will be 13 minutes time. But before we do step away for a brief moment and then return to conduct some mid-break interviews with some of our drivers, we just got a quick word from our sponsor for this season, our title sponsor, and that is IMB Racewear. We'll be back very shortly. And as we do return, ladies and gentlemen, we return for what is the replay of the race start. And indeed, what a start it was between our drivers as we got the racing underway. But as we do look to the replay footage here, we're going to try and catch a word or two with some of our drivers. But Daniel Martin, who did start on pole, having a phenomenal start, no doubt about it. Absolutely leading the field away off the line with the pressure that was also placed on him from start to finish. But in terms of getting a word from our driver, can we get a word from Daniel Martin is the big question that many of you may have on the mind. What we are trying to see, and I do believe we will be able to get a word from the man himself, and in fact we will just try and get a patch through to him down in the pit lane. And as we do, well, we do get a patch through to Mr. Daniel Martin. Daniel, have you got a time for a quick word?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, indeed our audience can as well, I do believe. But coming to yourself, what a fantastic way to resume your racing in the NXTCC. A win from pole position in our first race of the day here at Mosport. You must be absolutely pleased.
Oh, I was saying to the guys just now, I'm still shaking. I was so pumped up for that then, with the safety car as well, with the weight. Didn't expect to get pole. I knew it was going to be hard to keep Dan and Adam behind me. And then it just had, oh, yeah. It was just, I'm so pleased. It was mega.
Oh, indeed. Well, I mean, you're describing it as mega, and we absolutely enjoyed it from the spectator positions. We can only imagine how it must have been for yourself behind the wheel, lap after lap, and like you say, the pressure being on, particularly with the safety car restart as well. But with regards to the Honda, we've seen this car is very strong with regards to its cornering capabilities this season, plus being on the brakes. Have you found that's perhaps given you an advantage at this circuit, particularly in the opening corners, those long leading edge late apexes where you can just chuck the Honda in later than anybody else can?
If I had zero weight, yes. When I've got the weight, it tries to kill you. The weight shift is quite severe. It's a loose car anyway. The chassis is brilliant for that with the rotation, but when you've got 90 litres of fuel in, or 65 litres of fuel in, or 100 litres like I'm going to have this next race, it's just hang on and survive for the first like 5-6 laps, and then it settles down a little bit. But it's a brilliant little car. But this format works so well with the weights, the balance of performance just by weight is just brilliant. It's so close.
We do appreciate that feedback on the balance of performance and you describing there about the weight, and of course carrying the full weight going into the next race of the day. 56 kilograms being added to the car. We've yet to do the reverse grid draw, which we will be doing very shortly, but I have to ask, what are you expecting for race number 2?
Slow bleed, as Rob from RD Sim Sport calls it, a slow bleed. If I'm going to be a sitting duck down the straight, I was then. So it's just about maximising sectors 1 and 2, and then see where we're at by the end of the back straight. But slow bleed. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I just don't want to get freight trained.
Well, Dan, we're going to leave you to it for now in your preparation because, of course, we've got a reverse grid draw to do, but we wish you all the best luck for race number 2, upwards and onwards.
Thanks very much, Paul.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now do need to come onto our reverse grid draw. We've done things in a little bit of a different order today in order to mix things up. But without further ado, we do cut to the commentary booth here. And good evening to you all. I hope you're all doing well so far and well been enjoying the racing. And well, the lottery bowl is right in front of us. The numbers 6 through to 12 are here. We're going to do a shuffle and without further ado, do the race 2 number draw. So as we draw our number out, it is going to be the number 7, so it is a relatively small reverse grid, and that means that Jazz Sabsabula will be starting on pole for the purposes of our second race of the day. So the Semper Racing driver's got the pressure on. He's not going to have too much weight in the car. It could be an opportunity for the Semper Racing driver to add his name to the winner's books this season. Well, without further ado, we are going to take a brief step away, and we'll be back in approximately 7 minutes' time for the build-up to race number 2. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. You won't want to miss it. We'll see you very shortly. We return, ladies and gentlemen, for the build-up to race number 2. Out of 3 today in round number 4 of the NXTCC Season 5, brought to you on iRacing, powered by IMB Racewear. And goodness me, what a first race of the day it was at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. And we've still got plenty more to come here with regards to 2 more races. A grand total of 28 laps of racing still available, and another 14 laps of which coming up shortly in our second race of the day, with a reverse grid of what is your top 7, and it will be Wojciech Swirydowicz who'll be taking that pole position. But meanwhile, in the background, you may be able to see none other than Jamie Dory parked up, and we're going to try and get a quick word with Jamie Dory, who had definitely one of the races of the day in our first race, battling his way on through. And as we do try and get a patch through to the car with Jamie, do you have a quick 5 seconds?
Yes, mate. Yeah, I'm here.
Jamie, as you just pull out the pit lane there, we can see it looks like you're absolutely enjoying yourself in the first race today, fighting hard at the end for what was a top 10 finish. I believe battling your way past a good number of drivers on the penultimate laps as well. The weight not holding you back?
It is. I've just got confidence in the Audi round here. It feels quite nice. So, I mean, the P2 start, you know, that's a good one, really, isn't it? So, yeah.
100%. A P2 start off that 6th place finish, and well, we know this Audi very strong at this circuit given the straights and also the high average lap speed. What can we expect from yourself in race number 2? Can we expect a potential win on the cards?
I'd be slightly miffed if I didn't get a win. So yeah, you know, this is where I need to start thinking about championships and getting these points and outscoring my rivals, which hopefully I did in race 1. So onwards and upwards.
Oh, indeed. And when you look to the field, obviously you're going to have Wojciech Swirydowicz started just ahead of you on the front row. You've also got a good number of drivers around you, such as Dan Mould and last race's winner, Daniel Martin. Anybody you're eyeing up as a potential rival off the line?
I think, looking at the quality times and everything, I think anyone on the field today is a rival with how close the times are and how close compact this field is and how, you know, strong it is. So, yeah, everyone I'll be looking over my shoulder at, but it's all about the Audi start. Try and get that going as I did the last race and try and pull a gap early on.
Well, Jamie, we wish you the best luck for race number 2. We'll leave you to it and see you at the checkered flag.
Cheers, Paul. Thanks, mate.
So hearing there quickly from Jamie Dory, 2-time champion and championship contender this season thus far. And whilst we do have 2 minutes available, we are going to try and catch a word with one of our other drivers who might be down in the pit lane at the moment. We are trying to see if we can get a word with Craig Tillotson, but I believe he's not currently in the pit lane or the car, so we might leave him be for now. Perhaps he's just doing a little bit of silent meditation before going racing. We are going to see who else is available. Could we perhaps get a word with our pole man of what is Wojciech Swirydowicz? Well, I don't think we might be able to at this time, as we look to Adam Delmont here, who's had a bit of a moment with the wall on the exit of Moss, but as he comes on through, I believe we may be able to get a very quick word with Adam Delmont. In fact, he rejoins the circuit. We get a quick word with him. Adam, just a quick 30 seconds from yourself. Race number 2 coming up. The Civic's looking fast, and you were battling for the podium in race number 1. Can we expect more of the same in race 2?
Good evening, buddy. Yeah. I'm carrying a lot more weight, so I'm gonna have to see how that changes the dynamics of the car, especially coming up the hill off the tight double right. But yeah, mate, I'll be pushing forward and just looking ahead and seeing where I can finish, and just main aim, I think, try and stay around top 5. I think.
All right, Adam, well, we'll leave you to it, given the fact it's only 30 seconds ago, but appreciate your insights very briefly there and wish you the best luck to try and get in the top 5 come the end of the race.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you.
So hearing there quickly from Adam Delmont, but with that, ladies and gentlemen, all of our 40-mile drivers are now complete in the time we've got available. We are only moments away from going racing once again, and we're going to keep trying to get those pre-race and in-between race interviews just as much as our post-round interviews, because I think it's only appropriate we get a word from as many of our drivers as possible. And do let us know in the chat, whether you're on Twitch, Facebook, or alternatively YouTube, if there's a particular driver you want to hear from, and we'll try and get a word with them. But let's not put any more words in right now, ladies and gents, because the checker flag is out in this practice session. You know what time it is. It's time for us to head to the grid for race number 2. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid for the second race of the day, this is how they'll line up. Taking reverse grid pole, it is Wojciech Swirydowicz who starts P1 for Semper Racing, joined on the front row by none other than Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Pink. Behind them, it'll be Luciano Vitford for Brabham Esports and Sam Smith, your pro and pole sitter, starting P4 for iRacing Esports once again. Then on row number 3, it's Adam Delman and Dan Mould being followed up by the pairing of what is Daniel Martin and Alex Meredith on row number 4. And then we have Reese Watt and Alan McCain who complete your top 10, ahead of Mikey Doble and Matthew Addy on the 6th row. On row number 7, it's Wojciech Swirydowicz and Gavin Gardner, with then Rafael Zarst and Russell Fowler on row number 8. P17 will be Paul Scott, P18 John Higgins Jr., and then we do have Lee Horn and Paul Zanatachi who complete your top 20. P21 is Stephen Fry, joined on the 11th row of the grid by Isaac Doble, with Sam Van Olsen and Alex Everett on row number 12, and then we have behind them on row number 13, Matthew Sheraton and Nick Clibbins, with Jay Calais behind them, but we'll have to cut the run through, ladies and gentlemen. The grid is set, the lights are going on, and it's time for race number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... And it's 5 lights, and away we go once again as Wojciech Swirydowicz pulls off the line and charges his way down towards turn 1. But look at Jamie Dory on the outside. A slow start from Dory, it would seem, as they make the way on through the right hand, and Swirydowicz getting the job done nice and early. Meanwhile, Sam Smith on the outside, elbowed wide slightly, it would seem, in terms of his position versus Luciano Vitford. Drops back in behind with Adam Delman trying to get into the fight, but looking around the outside, Delman's going to have to be brave here if he wants to get this move done. And Smith looking to try and get the return on Vitford as Delman backs off there with teammate Mould behind. Smith looking around the outside into turn number 3. And as they come through, making their way through the long right-hander, looks like everybody right now making it safely through the opening few corners. No difficulty this time, but the only difficulty being experienced is Vitford right now having to keep with Delman and Smith behind as Delman makes his way around the outside of Smith into turn number 4, with Smith having a poor run off of turn number 3 onto the brakes. They all go behind his 3 wide. That's Alan McCain on the inside, jumping over the curb, and as he brings it back together, I'm not sure if he's riding a car or a horse at this point, but either way he's galloped his way on through and brings himself into P10, albeit Alex Meredith there doing well to hold on to P9, but McCain not holding any punches back as he makes his way on down the back straight here, and you can see even further back Sam Van Olsen trying to look for a move versus Paul Scott as the 2 Audi drivers battle side by side in the run down the back straight. But meanwhile we have got Jamie Dory and Wojciech Swirydowicz battling into turn number 8 from what I'm hearing, but Dory holding on, but focusing here still on Van Olsen versus Scott. This is for P6 in the Pro class just as much as P18 overall. Van Olsen outside to inside here, onto the brakes they go. Zanatachi behind as they make the way through turn number 9 into 10, and onto the brakes they make the way on through the right-hander. No change at the moment, it is going to be Van Olsen who holds on, but meanwhile Wojciech Swirydowicz a bit further up the road, battling side by side with Matthew Addy. 3 wide, that's going to be Gavin Gardner on the inside, and well, the 2 of them there making it on the way around, Gavin Gardner and backing out there, I think a fear of what could have been contact, but as they come in towards turn number 2, Gardner waiting in the wings, but as they make the way downhill through the left-hander of Clayton, you can see Gardner coming back there, Addy turns in, but he finds the Audi, goes a bit wide, brings the car back together, but Gavin Gardner being very selective in terms of where to put the car and smart driving, but in the end lets Matthew Addy rejoin and gives the place back. Respectful racing from Gavin Gardner there, and I think wary of the fact the contact could have led to an instant if it had gone a bit further, but still Wojciech Swirydowicz allowed to break away as a result here and make some early progress as they head in towards Moss Corner for the second time of asking, but coming on through the double right apex and onto the back straight they go, and from them Joseph Doble still trying to battle his way through the order, gaining 1 place at the start of this race as he looks on past what is there Daniel Downing side by side. They come out of the corner and onto the back straight they go. Remember, Joseph Doble no success passing the car now, so therefore he's got the full capabilities of the car available to him, but has he got the pace in order to make his way up through the field as Benjamin McCluskey and also Nick Clemens are right there behind as they go 2 by 2 in this long drag race down the Marion Jersey straightway, but heading up towards the brake zone here. Well, right now Downing's got to be smart in terms of where he puts the brakes on. In the fact, is he battling with Doble, is he battling with McCluskey? Well, in the end it's going to be McCluskey who's going to have the fight as he makes his way on around the outside here at turn number 9 into the inside of 10. McCluskey being made to work for this the hard way as they come on around, and as they do, well, right now it will be when his Joseph Doble gets ahead as they cross the line. Meanwhile from them Lee Horn 5 and the P739 Motorsports driver with a bit of pressure from in front and behind as well, with Matthew Sheraton also trying to find his way past Sanatachi or Isaac Doble. He's picked there of the Pro or the Pro-Am, but staying put for now as he makes his way through Moss Corner, but coming on down the back straight we look back up to Matthew Addy who exchanges side by side side here with Gavin Gardner. This battle for his P13 not going away anytime soon. You can understand why, because it is the first of the reverse grid eligible positions there, but you want to be P13 as a minimum if you don't want to be higher up the order. As they make the way up towards turn number 8 into the S's. This time Gardner gets on the inside and Addy made to lose the place. As meanwhile, that's Luciano Vitford in the wall. What is turn number 8? I'm not quite sure what's happened there. We'll have to get a replay of that when we can, but Vitford into the wall. Oh my good lord, that's Mikey Doble as well. And also I believe that's Reese Watt coming together. Well, it's all gone very, very wrong for the three drivers in the space of the S's. But what exactly set that off is the question. Well, we have, oh my goodness, and that is also what is, I believe, that's Craig Tillerson who's coming to the scene in the instant and collected with them. So it's a disaster for them. But what exactly triggered it off? Here's the replay, and I think we can find out. So under braking, the Bramble Esports driver Whitford in contact there with, I believe that was Dan Mould, and oh my goodness, the car just shattering on the rear end, and the rear wing going up into the sky. So was the rear, what was window, but then we did have what happened to Mikey Doble a little bit further in front. And in fact, that had already happened by the time. We're going to try and get an alternative camera for this, and I believe we may be able to. And this was Mikey Doble in the wrong place at the right time, as there was contact between Reese Watt and one of the drivers in front there. I'm not sure if it was the SRL car or another, but Reese Watt in the end had been scooped out to the side, and Mikey Doble trying to take evasive action ended up in the situation by being in the way of what was where Reese Watt's car was going to go. And then Craig Tillerson coming into the scene of the returning Reese Watt. A disastrous end to the race there for them, and well, goodness me, not the way they wanted it to go whatsoever. But as we do return to your live racing pictures, ladies and gentlemen, we do look to Jamie Dory leading this race. He comes towards the end of lap number 4 and going on to 5. Jazza Sabuna keeping the pressure on here as they make the way across the start-finish line and down in towards turn number 1 they go. Well, 5 laps now underway, and we've still got plenty more here today as they head in towards turn number 2. And Sabula not giving in right now as he makes his way over the crest and down through the left-hander, literally in the draft there as they head up towards turn number 3. And well, they do have Peter Greenwood on the inside. Blue flags waving, so they'll be given the right to the racing line. Greenwood will just back out of it, try and tuck in behind to avoid it being picked up by too many more cars in terms of blue flags for the end of the day. But Sabula right now eager to try and make a move as they make the way in towards turn number 4. Down the hill they go, but it does look as though here, as Dory was saying in the pre-race interview, very keen to take a win. He'd be a bit mad if he didn't pick up a win today, a prime opportunity, and I think right now Jasper Spieler would feel the same if he wasn't able to pick up the win, because these two are very close in terms of pace. And as they make the way down the back straight, it looks as though Dory just gradually creeping away with this lead at this point in time. As they head on down the back straight, we look to a bit further afield, in particular to Paul Zanatachi, who's pushing along. Isaac Doble here, the Affinity Veloster pushing along the Doble Sim Racing Veloster as they head up towards turn number 8. On towards the corner they go, and as they do, Zanatachi still looking around the outside here, trying to get the inside into 9 eventually. But of course they do have the toe of Zarsh to battle over, and Zarsh giving a bit more toe there to Isaac Doble. That's going to help the Doble Sim Racing driver stay ahead. You can see there, Isaac Doble taking a bit too much apex going. In fact, the car being upset by that and understeering on, and Zanatachi doing well to back off slightly. As Mion Zarsh coming into the pits, though, I believe that might be for damage on the car, so therefore making his way down pit lane, and therefore that's going to put him all the way to the back of the order. But as I try to make the way down through turn at number 1, Zanatachi can't quite find his way through at this time. But meanwhile, we look from them to Martin Shirley. And Martin Shirley making some gradual progress here, the RD Sport driver, after what was a nightmare start. And as he makes his way in towards turn number 2, the recovery since race number 1, well, up to P28 and still making more progress, and started from what was P34 on this grid, and hoping he can find a few more places before all is said and done today. And making his way on through the corners, he's got Benjamin McCluskey as his next target, then Ben Altria. Wayne Douglas being a bit further up the road, involved in that major contact on lap 1 of race number 1. Side by side here with Ian Manners coming down through turn number 4. They go too wide into the corner. Manners still down the inside into Moss. This is good defending from Manners. He's going to commit to it as a JW Mosport driver. And as they make the way out of the corner, Ian Manners does hold on. But as we now ride on board and look back from the rear boot lid of what is Manners' car, you can see there a whole face for the Douglas Motorsport machine. Race under NXTGEN banner. And well, right now, absolutely close as they come as they make the way in front. The camera being wiped off the rear, it would seem, of Manners' car as they make the way up towards turn number 8. Well, Wayne Douglas firmly there. These two battling for P24, and will battle as if it was the win on their hands. But do keep in mind that they are also looking for P23 up the road in the hands of Matthew Sheraton. because if they get there, they could be in for the ultimate reverse grid. If the number 23 is drawn out of the bowl, the numbers 11 and 12 will need to be drawn together to add up to that number, as they make their way across the line and up towards turn number 1. Well, right now, no change. Indeed, everybody pushing on here as Duncan Ray's looking for an opportunity to get involved versus Martin Shirley as they head out of turn 1 in towards turn number 2. And everybody here looking for moves, defending at the same time. So whichever way you look, if you're looking forward, you're looking to go on the offensive, trying to find an overtaking opportunity. But if you're Ben Altria right now, you're looking more behind you. And the fact you don't have Martin Shirley, over your 6, I think there's some contact there between Shirley and Altria. It's going to be both of them going on, but the 14B Mosport driver is able to drift and rejoin. Martin Shirley does the same, so no major incident, just a small tap on the rear end of the cars, and well, now Altria brings it back together, and Shirley losing out massively as a result of that. They both lose out versus Duncan Ray's and Benjamin McCluskey, but one more than the other as we do look a bit further up the order back to Matthew Addy, and we'll look into the next gen with Sam at Case's driver as he makes his way down the Marion Jersey straightway. He has Sam Van Olsen there right on his rear as they head in towards turn at number 8, and as they charge on down, meanwhile, further up the order, Wojciech Swirydowicz looking for the move up the inside of Gavin Gardner. I think this might be a guaranteed move for position here. In fact, it will be made, and it will be P9 in the hands of the Polishman now as he comes on throw to take the position of Gavin Gardner, heading on towards lap number 8. Half of the race complete, still half of it to go, 7 more on the clock. And then they head in towards turn number 1. Wojciech Swirydowicz continues to chisel away, place by place here, knowing that he wants to try and get as many back, given there's no success ballast in the car right now, and therefore this is prime time to attack, particularly with Mikey Doble down in P33, and therefore well out of the point-paying positions. But the number 80 driver just gradually tries to pick his way on through. Knowles, meanwhile, still trying to fight his way past Matthew Addy for full place in the Brown class. Matthew Addy trying to hold on to the position he earned in the first race of the day. Knowles, meanwhile, looking for another chance to be jump on board with Goldwyn Motorsport Audi Sport Customer Racing driver. And as they head on down for turn number 4, we can see the number 92 driver right now so close he can reach out and touch the rear wing of his rival. But the problem is here in the fact if he's too close coming on down into Moss corner, then it really compromises his line and leaves him at risk of in fact going straight on or having to steer clear and avoid contact, but gets a beautiful exit as a result. And this is going to be the best possible opportunity for Knowles could ask for here. Absolutely on the throttle as they make the way on through. Side by side they go up towards what will be turn at number 8, and as they make the way on down, well, it's going to be Addy on the inside, it's going to be Van Olsen on the outside. Van Olsen building up that speed. The Audi's going to have the legs, but will the Veloster driver of Addy be able to outbrake him into the corner? We know the brakes are a little bit stronger there on the Veloster. They come through the right-hander, but in the end Van Olsen gets ahead, and therefore as he makes the move count, now it's going to be Addy who's got to go on the counter-attack, coming out of whites at turn number 10 and onwards towards turn number 1, but will he be able to find a way on through? I don't think so here. I think Van Olsen's got the door firmly shut on this, and it's a lovely move from Sam Van Olsen to take P12 overall, and with it P4 in the prime class. Paul Scott's now queuing up behind Matthew Addy and looking for an opportunity to get involved here as the next gen with Sam Case's teammates both line up together behind Van Olsen, and I wonder if they might be on the radio to one another right now, thinking about how they can potentially work around one another and work together to make further progress. But heading in towards turn number 3, we look to Wojciech Swirydowicz, who looks to pick up another driver. Alan McCain now on the inside of which he goes, and as he makes his way out of turn number 3, Wojciech Swirydowicz moves up to P8 with Gavin Gardner trying to follow suit as they come down the hill. But you notice on the outside, the Audi just not able to carry the momentum around the outside. A little bit understeer creeping in. Gardner cognizant of it and decides to back the car before it's too late. But as they make the way out of the corner, meanwhile, Sam Smith now trying to stay close to Daniel Martin, because the thing is, Alex Meredith is now only 1.1 seconds behind, albeit Alex Meredith in that battle for the prime lead has got to wait about the fact he's got the 2 pros of Dan Mould and Wojciech Swirydowicz scrapping off beside him, and this is going to be 3 wide up into the S's here. And now if you were Meredith, surely you've got to be backing out of this, but you don't want to be involved in this. Was they into the braking zone? He's not backing out, he's staying in this to win it, and as they come on through, we're now on the outside of turn 9, Mould on the inside, Meredith turns in, he can't quite get the run to the apex, understandably so, and instead has to back off and just let Mould take the position. I think Dan Mould right now getting his elbows out there quite understandably, getting them out firmly but fairly as they make the way onto the next lap, because he wants to clear and run away from Wojciech Swirydowicz before Swirydowicz can get close enough to overhaul him, given the fact there's a lot less weight in the car for Swirydowicz than there is Mould. But as they make the way in towards turn number 2, Meredith right now still keeping his eyes on Smith in front. The gap, however, 1.4 seconds now, given the fighting with Mould and Swirydowicz he's had to contend with. And therefore Meredith's race now hinging in the balance and potentially having to let 2 pros through to give them the breathing room in order to go hunting after Smith. If those pros can then hunt down Smith, if Smith's pace is not enough to keep them away, because they head on down the hill and in towards turn number 5. Meanwhile, we do look a little bit further back, and we look back in particular to what is Duncan Moraes, who's right now chasing after Wayne Douglas and also Benjamin McCluskey for P25. The Goldwing Motorsport driver here coming on down the hill and, well, running in P13 in the Prime class. It's been a difficult race for him so far, but still more to come, there's no doubt about it. Looking back up from here to Stephen Fry. Fry recently finding his way past Jay Calais into Moss Hairpin. And well, now Joseph Doble looking to try and do the same down the back straight as we say hello there to Andrew Spun in the Twitch chat. Well, as the drivers make the way on down this back straight, Joseph Doble up the inside here. And I think Jay Calais is not going to battle this too hard, respecting the fact at the end of the day, Joseph Doble on paper should be the faster driver of the two of them. And as they come in towards the S's, letting it go, Joseph Doble moves up to P19. I think Calais now will tuck in behind Doble in order to steer clear Alex Everett, who's hot on his heels. Also more importantly, be pulled onto the back of Stephen Fry, presuming that Joseph Doble will go for the move on Fry within the remaining 4 laps of this race. As they head across the timeline and down into turn number 1. Meanwhile, we do look from them back up to Gavin Gardner, who find himself under pressure from Wojciech Swirydowicz as they made the way on down the hill. And in fact, I do believe that Gardner's made the move for P8 quite recently on Swirydowicz. How did it happen, however? Well, here's a replay to explain. So this was coming out of turn number 9 into 10, and Swirydowicz was Alex Meredith in contact there as they made the way out the corner. So in the end, well, Alex Meredith able to stay ahead, and Swirydowicz trying to back the car from Gavin Gardner, dive into the inside into turn number 1 and not waste an opportunity. Alan McCain trying to do the same but couldn't quite pull it off. And as we return to your live pictures now, still more to come between these drivers, with Sam Knowles battling side by side with Russell Fowler as they make the way out of turn number 5 on your live pictures here, and heading on down this back straight up towards turn number 8. And more Van Olst here looking to stay in the toe of Fowler, the battle of the Audi drivers with Wes Matthew Addy on the outside, and the Audis were dragged. Remember, Van Olst is trying to keep what's next gen with Sam Cases, Addy and Scott behind him. You can see Scott pushing Addy onwards there to try and get back along the outside in towards turn number 8. It's not going to happen in the end, and Van Olst will hold the position, but I think right now Scott and Addy trying to put some teamwork together. They've got to keep in mind they've got Lee Horn and Isaac Doble coming through, plus also Zanatachi, so they're running out of time here before they get the rest of the field started to beckon for places behind them, and it's not a happy place to be when that pressure is building from behind as they make the way in towards turn number 1 once more. But coming on down through the hill and in towards turn number 2 over the rise shortly. We'll look back to your race leaders here, and this is Jamie Dory versus Jaslav Zabula. They're in a very quiet lead at the moment. 4 seconds is the gap between them and Adam Delman in P3, but whilst it may be quiet in terms of the number of drivers at the front, it is also very close between them as they make the way on down through turn number 4. And Dory right now, where you can imagine the pressure is on Sabula trying to go for his first win of the season. You have to feel with the Semper Racing drive because Swirydowicz has been able to pick up a win already, but he won't want his teammate having all the glory on the top step of the podium. But I think Sabula right now, as much as he pushes and hustles behind Dory, well, it's just not coming through at this time. But also Sabula does have a little bit less weight in the car. We do need to factor that in, and perhaps he's waiting for that weight to take its toll on the final lap as they make the way on down the Marandretti straightway. Meanwhile, looking back to Adam Delman, who's broken away into P3, and we did have a brief chat to him in the build-up to this race, and he was saying about the fact targeting to be up in the top 5 as a minimum. Well, he's on course for a potential podium here right now, and looking at very good the SRL with next-gen driver. But meanwhile, from him, we do look to Russell Fowler and Alan McCain. As Sam Knowles has been dropped by Fowler, and Fowler looking around the outside into turn number 8. Can he find it? No, he can't. McCain defending well, and McCain right now really digging in his claws into position. I think the Prime's really enjoying the racing with the pros, it must be said, and tucking in for these overall positions. They want those overall points just as much as they want class points, and it's understandable given the fact it may be a huge opportunity for them to take places they wouldn't otherwise be able to achieve elsewhere. But as they make the way on through turn number 1, meanwhile we look back to Daniel Downing, who has been chased, I should say, by Matthew Cheverton as they make the way through turn 1. Alex Everett just in front, and Everett right now finds himself on the head of the train of Prime drivers, the trio of which, and as he heads on through turn number 2, we jump forward and look back from the rear of the number 29 car, currently P21, P10 Prime cars. So Alex Everett trying to hold on for some key points. They head on through the right-hander of turn number 3, but you can see they're just looking how close Downing is getting to his rivals. They make the way off the corner, and now in towards turn number 5 they charge. Cheverton behind there, still watching and waiting in the wings. but it looks like this is becoming more and more of a battle between Everett and Dan, with Cheverton being a third party who may get involved as these two really start to knock time out of one another, but very close there. Contact through Everett's car from Downing, and as they make the way off of the corner, you can see the slight graze on the front bumper. Flash of lights there from Downing. I think that's to try and distract Everett. Everett won't be thinking that he's made any mistakes. He's been absolutely fair in his racing, he'll feel, as they make the way on down the Marion Jesse straightway. But we need to look away from these guys for a brief moment, because meanwhile, in the fight for P4, P5, this is Sam Smith, your prime leader, trying to keep Daniel Martin at bay. Contact between as they come out of turn number 9, a brief rub, but nothing more than that. Rubbing his racing, as they say, as they come out of turn number 10. White flag is waving. We got onto the final lap of this second race, and Martin on the inside there, Smith on the outside. Martin going all in on the inside of turn number 1. That will put him on the outside for turn 2. Smith runs a bit wide. As they head up the rise, well, Smith, despite going off track, will come back onto the inside of turn number 2. He wants to make it a P4 overall, and we can understand why. Given the fact he wants to try and get as many overall positions as he can, and with that, he'll feel even more special when he gets told he's taking the prime win as well. But meanwhile, Alex Meredith waiting in the wings behind the RD Sim Sport driver, also keeping behind him a long pack of pros ahead of a couple of primes as well. That is Mould, Gardner, Swirydowicz, and then the primes of McCain, followed up by Fowler in the pro class, and then Addy on the back of this, and Van Ulster as well. Let's not forget Van Ulster ahead of Addy. And as they make the way on through Boss Corner right now, Alex Meredith absolutely forming one of the longest trains as they make the way on through turn at number 5 and on to 6. But as they do so, meanwhile, we look back to your two leaders here, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we'll stay for the remainder of the racing, as Jamie Dory right now trying to keep Jaroslav Sabula behind him for the last couple of corners here as he makes his way on through turn at number 8. We took the lead quite early on in this race of Sabula, albeit happening off camera, and as they make the way through turn number 9 to 10, one more corner awaits him, and then the checker flag, and as he heads out the final corner, he's going to do it. He'll take the win. It's Jamie Dory who is your winner in race number 2 for Next Gen Pink, ahead of Jaroslav Sabula for Semper Racing. Adam Delmont finishes P3 for SRL Next Gen, and then Sam Smith will hold on to P4, and with it, your second prime winner of the day goes once again to Sam Smith, and Daniel Martin and Alex Meredith, who's your runner-up in the prime class P6, and it'll be Alan McCain P10 and third place in the prime class in what has been a double podium so far for the iRacing Sports driver. What a race from him. Meanwhile, looking back to P23, Daniel Downing will take the final eligible spot of the reverse grid for our third race a day, and the Goldwing Motorsport driver will be pleased with that. But more drivers coming through it, including Harley Bicknell there for JW Motorsport, P29 PM ahead of Rafael Zarscht, and then we do have what is P34 Nick Clibbent as he makes way through the last couple of corners. I see a car going off-road there. That's Reese Watt, who brings the car back together after an error. But Nick Clibbent will be your P34 finisher, and he will be one of your last finishers on the lead lap of this race, as Reese Watt finishes P37 just behind. And meanwhile, it will be Craig Tillotson who will be your last lead lap finisher, P35, in what has been a challenging race for the FR20 Sim Racing driver, but still one more to go today as he comes across the line there. And I believe with that, we have had all of our race finishers, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll give them all a round of applause. It has been a sensational second race of the day, and Jamie Dory in the end bringing on home that win after taking the lead in early fashion. And it was on lap number 1 that he made the overtake for the lead. And how exactly was it made? Well, here's the quick replay to show you what exactly happened. So the run down the back straight and up towards turn number 8 was Dory versus Mueller in towards what was turn at number 9 at the time, and already ahead. Dory with the overspeed then, Sabula tucking in and deciding there was no way to defend it, but instead focusing on running for the front and making sure that the top 2 battle stayed a top 2 battle and didn't bring any other belligerents in. Was Dory's made his way into the pit lane. Indeed, everybody now making their way down onto the pit lane entry. A very crowded pit lane as they all come on in. We can see Ben Altria there trying to traffic skip his way on through in the 504. And as they make the way on down there, we're one safely into the pits. And with that, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are. After another fantastic 14 laps of racing in race number 2 of round 4 of season 5 of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, where it was Jamie Dory who took the win for Next Gen Pink by 3 attempts over Semper Racing's Jaroslav Sabula. Adam Delmont, third place in the end for SRL Next Gen, completing the overall podium, and with that making it back-to-back third places, and well, back-to-back wins in the Prime class and P4s as well for Sam J. Smith there for iRace Esports. Congratulations to him. Fend off Daniel Martin to align with the RD Sim Sport driver, fighting hard to a P5 finish ahead of teammate from RD Simsport of Alex Merritt, if you're run-up in the Prime Class P6. Dan Mould P7 for SRL Next Gen, with Gavin Garner P8 for Next Gen Pink, and then Wojciech Swirydowicz and Alan McCain completing your top 10 for Semper Racing and iRacing Esports, with Russell Fowler P11. Best of the rest there for Performance Link Esports. A great turnaround after a difficult race number 1, but making his way up into P11 for race number 2, and that's going to firmly put him in the reverse grid for the 3rd race of the day. Behind him, Sam Van Ols P12, and with that, not quite on the Prime podium, but P4 in the Prime class for Goldwing Motorsport. Head of the Next Gen with Sam Case's trio of Lee Horn, Matthew Addy and Paul Scott, with Lee Horn being the first eligible position for the reverse grid, and therefore he's guaranteed to be on it, so he'll be absolutely pleased with that. But outside the top 15, we can see there in what was P16, Paul Zanatachi ahead of Wojciech Doble, with Joseph Doe, Stephen Fry and Jay Calais completing the top 20. A season best performance there for the P739 Motorsports driver of Stephen Fry. Well done to him for what was, at the end of this race, a P8 in class in the Prime class, and then Alex Everett P21 for what was Crest Autosport. Fended off Ian Manners to line for JW Motorsport, head of Daniel Downing, Benjamin McCluskey and Matthew Sheverton to complete your top 25. Wayne Douglas P26 ahead of Duncan Rise, with Ben Altrier P28 as his battle against the Mosport circuit continues to go on. And then we can see to complete your top 30, Harley Bicknell and Raffles Zarsht, with Zarsht having a difficult second race a day, ahead of Mikey Doble with that major incident at the S's, costing him extremely dear, and recovering a P31, but knowing he's got it all to do from the back of the field in the final race a day, ahead of Martin Shirley, and then Luke Jones, Nick Lewins and Craig Tiddleston to complete your top 35. And with that, all of your lead lap finishers. Peter Greenwood finishing a lap down for P739 Motorsports, the same for Reece Watt, and then we did have the retirements of Luciano Vitford, who we saw into the wall at the S's at turn number 8 early on in that contact with Dan Mould on what was lap number 2, and then we also did see what was the retirement of Fraser Elphick and James Smansgow and John Higgins Jr. But I do believe with that 41 starters and what was in the end a grand total of 37 finishers, 35 of which on the lead lap, and well, ladies and gentlemen, we've still got one more race of the cards today, and that is race number 3 coming up in approximately what will be 10 to 15 minutes time. But before that, of course, we do have one question to resolve, and that is where will our reverse grid be taken from for our final race of the day. Well, without further ado, we cut to the commentary booth once again, and hello to you all, and well, what a second race we have had. And rather than delay going to the reverse grid draw, we're going to do it in the right order this time and do that reverse grid draw immediately. And just to remind you, whereas in the first reverse grid draw we did take one ball out of Lottery Bowl, this time we're going to close our eyes, shuffle and take 2 balls out, add the numbers together, and that's where the reverse grid will be from. So without further ado, let's get to it. So that's our shuffle, and we take our first ball out of the bowl, and it is going to be the number 11. Could we be looking at the maximum reverse grid today? Well, the number 12 would have to do it, but we're definitely looking at a big grid at that. And here we go for our second draw as we do a small shuffle, and we draw the number out of the bowl, and it is going to be the number 9 that joins 11, so it is a top 20 reverse grid, and that does mean that Jay Calais will be taking his first ever reverse grid pole position in his NXTCC career. Well, can the rookie driver of this season find a way to hold on in terms of being in the top 5? Could he even hold on for the win? All that and more is due to come, ladies and gentlemen, and we will be back in approximately what will be 7 to 8 minutes time for the build up to our final race of the day. We'll see you very shortly. But first, not without a word from our sponsor for this series, our title sponsor at that, and that is IMB Racewear. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to our final race of the day. Race 3 of 3 here at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in Ontario of Canada. And as we get set for what is expected to be a thrilling conclusion to our racing here in Canada today, well, we've already had 2 races that have definitely seen us return to the precipice of racing. And well, race number 1 was a thriller. Race number 2 was absolutely scintillating. But what can we expect from race number 3 of a top 20 reverse grid? Well, I'm sure many drivers will be absolutely itching to go racing at one last time today. But I'll tell you one thing as well, there's one driver right now who we'd love to grab a word or two with and hear his thoughts on how he's feeling going into this race, and that would be none other than Sam Smith, who's currently sat in the pit lane, I do believe. In fact, he's out of the car and just sat waiting, but he's a back-to-back winner on his return to the racing and moving into what has been the Prime class for the remainder of this season. And we're going to try and get a patch through to him down in the paddock and hear his thoughts on that very briefly. And well, as we do, let's try and get a word to the man right now. And indeed, I think we can. Sam, just time for a quick word, if I may.
Yeah, how you doing?
All good, thank you. But more importantly, how are you doing, given the fact first 2 races of the day, your first 2 races in the Prime class as well for this season, back-to-back wins and back-to-back P4s. You couldn't ask for more, surely.
No, not at all. It's a track I absolutely love, actually. So I was expecting a good result here. It probably won't be so good going on for the rest of the season, but yeah, it's one of the ones that really enjoy. Fast-flowing, lovely track.
Well, that's great to hear. And going into race number 3, of course, now a P17 start, plus also you're going to have the best part of 30 kilograms of success ballast in the car with that P4 finish in the previous race. I mean, is another win doable? Can you make it a treble?
I don't know now. There's a lot of Pro-Am cars in front of me now that I've got to get past, including Alex, I think. So, yeah, it's going to be a hard battle now. But I'm up for it, and we'll see how we get on.
Well, Sam, we wish you the best luck in the final race today. We'll leave you to your final preparations and see you at the checkered flag.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Take care.
So hearing there quickly from iRacing Esports is Sam Smith, and absolutely all fired up and saying don't expect it to be the same for the remainder of the season, but he does love this Canadian Tire Motorsports Park circuit, but he really has been a force to be reckoned with today. I think a good number of drivers, including Alex Meredith, may have one eyebrow up at the moment in the fact they definitely do have a new arrival to watch out for on the grid. Well, we've got a minute to go before we go racing. We are going to try and grab one more quick word with a driver if we can, although I think most of the drivers now are in their cars or about to get in their cars if they're not already. So I think we might have to pause the potential interviews there, ladies and gentlemen, and catch a word with our drivers after the race, those who are up for a post-round interview, of course. But as we do get set and ready to go one more time, well, place your bets. Who will be our winners in the final race of the day? It's definitely going to be a tight one with what is a top 20 reverse grid as well. We've got some new names at the front of the field that we haven't seen up there on the reverse grid before. Particularly Jay Calais, who'll be taking his first ever reverse grid at pole position in the NXTCC. Will they be able to hold on at the front? Could we see some surprise results? There's so many big what-ifs, and I can tell a number of you are absolutely excited for them. None more than a superstar of next-gen racing history in the form of the YouTube chat there of Chris Daines, and glad to see you tuned in, Chris. Of course, a participant in what seasons 1 and 2 of the NXTCC, did the full season of season 1 and part of season 2, if my memory serves me correctly, but also a highly decorated individual in the early era of what was our Proto GT3 Championship, racing particularly under the banner of Rhino Motorsport back then, and having some absolutely legendary moments with his teammate Gavin at this circuit in particular. Go back and take a look at season 1 if you want to know more about that, ladies and gentlemen. But as the checker flag does come on out, it is time for us to go to the grid. Race number 3 of 3 is here, and let's get to it. So as our drivers make the way to the grid, this is how they'll line up for our final race of the day. It is Jay Calais who takes reverse grid pole position, and behind the privateer on the front row is P739 Motorsports' Stephen Fry. Behind the 2 Prime drivers, it's your pro pole sitter of Wojciech Doble, P3 for Doble Sim Racing, with Isaac Doble for company, his brother and teammate on P4. On row number 3 is Paul Zanatachi and Paul Scott. Well, up on row number 4 by Matthew Addy and Lee Horn, and then we do have the pairing of Sam Van Olst and Russell Fowler to complete what is your top 10. And then on row number 6 is Alan McCain and Wojciech Swirydowicz, with row number 7 going to Gavin Garner and Dan Mould. And then row number 8 we'll see Alex Meredith and Daniel Martin line up together. Sam Smith starts P17, joined by Adam Delmont P18 on the 9th row of the grid. And then to complete the top 20 is Jazz Stabula and Jamie Dory. Alex Everett starts P21 on row number 11, joined by Ian Manners. And on row 12 it's Daniel Danning and Benjamin McCluskey. On row number 13 we have Matthew Sheraton and Wayne Douglas, with row 14 going to Duncan Morais and Ben Altria. We have to stop there, ladies and gentlemen. The grid is set, it's time for the light, and it is going to be 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for our final race of the day. Jay Calais gets the slow start. Stephen Fry looks around the outside. But look at Joseph Doble, gets the best start of the three of them, and he can't find his way through. And as they come through the opening corner, well, it's going to be as they were off the line, albeit now Fry's having to look at his rearview mirror more and more. And as they make their way in towards turn number 2, everybody starting to come in line astern. Well, with Matthew Addy out of the sequence, but on cold tyres, he understeers wide. And as a result, that's going to be now what will be Sam Van Olsen looking up the inside. But he'll be the outside of turn number 3 as they head onto the brakes here in to the corner, making their way on through and around they go. And as they do, all the drivers right now all settling down, coming through the right and up towards turn number 5 they go, in towards that braking zone. And behind them, Russell Fowler on the charge here, the Constantine Esports driver looking to go hunting into that braking zone and going in now as they make their way through the right-hander of turn number 5. He's got his inside Wojciech Swirydowicz, and Swirydowicz making his way out the corner here, and the Polishman gained a place already. In fact, Swirydowicz gained 2 places off the start as they head on down the back straight and up towards turn number 8. Now, can he make it more as he makes his way out? We reckon he can, but he's got a long way to go here as they make their way on down the back straight towards the end of lap number 1. But still Russell Fowler trying to come back behind them. Alan McCain also staying in the hunt as they head in towards the braking zone. No change at the moment, it would seem. Fowler still there, Alan McCain not backing out, but meanwhile Gavin Garner looking around the outside as they head on through in towards turn at number 9 and going on around through the S sequence and up towards White's corner here. Fowler being pushed wide out into turn number 9, back to the inside of 10. That's going to put him on the course here, the battle of Alan McCain, but it does mean the Wojciech Swirydowicz does get clear. And as they head in towards turn number 1, this time on the second lap, well, it's Fowler now defending versus McCain as they come down through the right hand, and McCain right there rubbing door to door as they make their way out the corner up towards turn number 2 and heading over the rise and into the downhill braking zone here. Fowler not giving in, and unfortunately Esports Drive is rewarded for his perseverance by finally taking the position back from Alan McCain and holds on to P11 for the time being. But after 1 lap, or 1.5 laps we should say now, it's Jay Calais who leads, and Stephen Fry P2, Joseph Doble P3, Isaac Doble P4, Paul Zanatachi P5, then Paul Scott P6, Lee Horn P7, followed by Matthew Addy, then Sam Van Olsen P9, Wojciech Swirydowicz completes your top 10, best the rest P11 is Russell Fowler, and you're looking at your race leader and your prime leader at that as Calais still has the pressure of Fry as they make their way out of Moss for the second time and head on down the back straight. As they do, have we had any major incidents at the start of this race? We have had a couple of cars fall off the circuit early on. Luke Jones has just left the pit lane for repair work. Duncan Morais and Ben Altria have still been serviced. In fact, I do believe, as I look at my commentator with Windows, a lot of repair work going on with the cars, so therefore out of what's been our 37 starters, 34 of them have had a safe start, and the rest of the field right now not in that safe place. But meanwhile, as Calais has to defend it versus Fry, well, Fry is very close, and these two, of course, both looking at an opportunity to take their first ever podiums in the prime class, if not their first ever overall podiums as well. But this is a long race of 14 laps. Whilst it is a sprint race, only 20 minutes in duration, for them it is going to feel like an eternity, and they have got a lot of very fast drivers right behind them who would all have an opportunity to find their way through as they go to lap number 3. We're right on board with your race leader, Jay Calais, who does have Stephen Fry right behind. But here comes Joseph Doble already. As we said, fast drivers will look to come through when they can. Joseph Doble up the inside. Fry gives the space. Doble picks up 1. Now he'll be looking to take on Calais to try and take the overall lead and run away with it as they make the way up towards the braking zone here for turn number 3. Going on through a long right-hander. We do say hello in the Facebook chat to Ian Crosby, who says, not sure the subtitles are keeping up with your sub and tranquil. Do apologise that for Ian. We'll see what we can do as they make the way on down through 4 and in towards 5. Onto the brakes they go. And right now, no further moves at Joseph Doble at this time. Instead, having to sit in behind as we have a bit of an error, I believe, for a car in front. And Duncan Rise goes slightly deep and locking up at the braking into Mosport, and that's where you see the brake dust. But meanwhile, looking a bit further back down the order, Daniel Martin here, P15 for RD Sims, chasing after Gavin Gardner. He's got Adam Delmont trying to make his way through. And remember, these guys starting from towards the back of the top 20 with that reverse grid. Therefore, they've got heavy cars. They're also very fast drivers, and they need to try and pick up as many places as they can, because this race for them is damage limitation, whereas the earlier races were about scoring the big points. And well, big points can still be made here if you play your cards right. And Daniel Martin right now keeping it firm, but meanwhile, it's gone very wrong, I believe, for Stephen Fry, as we have had Stephen Fry drop a long way down the order. We can't quite get the camera on him by the looks of it, as Fowler they're battling with Delman, but the big headline is that Stephen Fry has had a huge fall down the order, in fact dropped towards the back of the field. Meanwhile, Joseph Doble up the inside into turn number 1 on lap number 4 and takes the lead this race over Jay Calais. As they head out 1 in towards 2, over the rides and down they go in towards the left hand as they make the way on through. Well, now Joseph Doble will try and break away as much as he possibly can, but the big question all of you will be asking is, where is Stephen Fry? What's happened to the P739 Motorsports driver? Well, here's a replay that can explain it. And we're losing the rear end of the car and mounting the apex curve of turn number 8, and that is very unfortunate for Fry. Now, it didn't look as though there was contact, but in the end the car being turned and then just having to patiently wait to rejoin, and you can appreciate he may be absolutely gutted with that. Oswald's looking to be a very strong start to his race, but as he's dropped all the way down to what is P34 from P3, you return to your live pictures and look back to your race leader, albeit for a brief moment, because we've also got Sam Van Olst here, P8 chased after Matthew Addy, and he's fighting with what is Matthew Addy for P4 of the Prime class and P7 overall as they head on down towards turn number 8. Now on the charge they go, and as they do that, Audi looking threatening as it always does on these straights. Meanwhile, the Veloster looking strong and sturdy as they head it into the braking zone, and well, Addy just going defensive, but also looking around the outside trying to cut it back, but in the end no way through, and Addy and Van Olst have definitely become acclimatised and acquainted with one another over the first 2 races of the day. But as they make their way to the corner, it's a little bit of a run deep out of 9 into 10 for Van Olst. Swirydowicz looks up the inside, sees the opportunity and doesn't need to be asked twice to try and go for it as he goes into turn number 1, and it's going to be a place gained here for the Semper Racing driver up into P8, but also is going to try and come back as they make them out of 1 into 2. Over the crest they go, you can see that Van Olst looking around the outside, understeer kicks in on the run down through the left-hander, and as a result Swirydowicz gets the move done. Van Olst flashes like something he's not happy about, but meanwhile he's going to be unhappy even more shortly if Dan Mould can find his way around the outside, and the SRL driver doing everything right now to chase after Swirydowicz. He'll want to try and get as close as possible to Swirydowicz, given the fact that the championship leader in front of him right now, and the SRL driver will gain major ground in the first 2 races of the day, but he'll want to make sure that Swirydowicz doesn't get anything back in this final race here at Mosport before they head to Germany in a week's time. As they come out of Mosport, it's going to be a move from Swirydowicz up the inside now, down the back straight they go, and as they head up towards turn number 8, well, the Polishman here for Semper Racing looking strong, looking calm, looking collected, and as he heads all the way down the Marandretti straightway, we can see the gap that's opened up to Lee Horn, almost 2 seconds is that gap, but Swirydowicz right now feeling confident, I think, that he can gain this and then go hunted after the next pro drive in the order as Addy loses the rear of the car under braking, and that's going to cause him to step deep on Van Olst, and as a result Sam Van Olst gains the place. Dan Mould also around the outside of 9 to the inside of White's at 10. It's going to be even more places lost for Matthew Addy as now Gavin Gardner tries to make his way through, but I think that's where the buck stops. The NXTGEN Racing Pink drive's not going to be allowed on through, and instead now Gardner's going to have the company of McCain all on the back of him as they make the way on through turn number 1 and onwards towards turn number 2. But meanwhile, as they make the way onwards towards the next corner, we look a little bit further back to Daniel Downing, and right now Daniel Downing P8 in the prime class, but fighting amongst the whole pack of pros. He's trying to find his way past Mikey Doble and Benjamin McCluskey, but in fact I think he's being made to watch, wait and listen as they head in towards turn number 3 with what is in front of them, Sam Smith. And Smith coming on through the corner as we do briefly lose McCluskey. He rematerialises from the ether. McCluskey having some connectivity issues. Hopefully that's not a sign of something to come here as they make their way down towards turn number 4. But as they do come over the rise will mean, while we do talk about Sam Smith here, the man who's taken 2 wins out of 2 so far in the Prime class today. Well, right now currently P18, P70 class. It may be a long leap to try and make it 3 wins out of 3. But you can imagine he'll be looking to just gradually gain 1 place at a time, and also keep in mind he does have the best part of 32 kilograms of success ballast in the car. It is going to make this race a hard one on the car and those front tyres in particular. But looking from him further down the order, Wayne Douglas here as well on the offensive versus Nick Clemens as they power their way down the back straight in towards turn number 8. They go on the long run. Douglas looking at the inside of Clemens. This is going to be for P26. Onwards he goes on the brakes. Clemens not really offering too much of a defence here, trying to perhaps cut it back out of 8. But in the end, Wayne Douglas makes his mark and gains the place immediately as they come out of 9 and in towards 10. Looking from them back up to Isaac Doble, and well, you would imagine Isaac Doble right now would be very eager to chase after Jay Calais, who's just cut through your camera, but in fact he's having to work more and more to hold on to this P3 with Paul Zanatachi and also Lee Horn just behind him. And I think Isaac Doble right now needs to try and make a choice, which is, does he fight for third overall, or does he chase down the win and let the pros bring the win to him in the form of the fact that Zanatachi and Horn could potentially overtake Calais and therefore bring Doble nice and close? Well, I think he's going for the former rather than the latter at the moment. It's going to be an interesting investment. As I head in towards turn number 5, right now Isaac Doble definitely shown he's got what it takes to mess with the best boys out there as he makes his way through turn number 5 and onwards towards 6. But with every lap he's trying to keep the pros behind him, he's letting Jay Calais just gradually extend that lead. Last time around it was 3 tenths gained, and this time it's looking similar so far as they head on down the back straight. But meanwhile, as they all power the way down, Gavin Gardner looking for the move on what is Matthew Addy here. Behind them they do have Daniel Martin, and Gardner trying to make his way through, trying to keep Addy between him and Martin. But the RD Simsport driver, I think, has got other ideas. They head in towards turn number 8, up the inside, both Gardner and Martin going Addy, and Addy here is going to lose even more places, or is he, as they come through? Going to be a bit of contact between the two, and meanwhile Carr to the wall, pointing the wrong way. That's Paul Scott, who's had a major moment coming out of what he is turn number 9 and into the barrier. He's gone the next year with Sam Case's driver. We'll have to try and understand what exactly happened to him very shortly, but having to wait there and just wait to rejoin the race, but reversing along the barrier there. And I can imagine the rear suspension, the rear right suspension in particular, will not be in a good state, and therefore it could need significant repair work. But he's going to carry on here for as long as he can. But we do look, meanwhile, we've got further going on further down the order. In fact, it looks as though somebody's made an error here. Oh my goodness, and Russell Fowler to the wall. Oh my good lord, that is a nasty shot for the 61 driver. As soon as we look over and look at the front left suspension, from the driver's perspective, that left side suspension has completely collapsed. Russell Fowler's race surely is over, or at least he's got a long run to the pits, and when he comes back out, he'll be at the back of the field. But as he brings it back together, meanwhile passing him, Reese Watt making his way past the lap down Duncan Rise as they head up towards turn number 5, but onto the brakes they go, and as they do, well, we have a replay. What exactly happened to Paul Scott? In fact, I think we need a few replays, but here's what happened to Paul Scott coming out of turn number 9, and contact there with what was at the front of Wojciech Swirydowicz's car. We should really say Swirydowicz making contact with the rear of Paul Scott's car by looks of things, and that sent Paul Scott to the barrier. Very unfortunate there. That one may get reported after the racing today. And then what exactly happened to Russell Fowler? Well, this was the run out of turn number 2, preceded, I think, by an off-track by Matthew Addy, and will contact there, and I believe that was contact with the car of Daniel Martin that has sent Russell Fowler to the barrier, albeit that's what we've seen in our pictures. We're not going to point the fingers and say who was at fault, but Russell Fowler definitely coming off the worst of the two of them in that instant. I think there was a bit more than meets the eye there, as I think there might have been an off-track for Matthew Addy or another driver. That caused the concertina effect in amongst the pack of 5 or 6 cars, and then everyone trying to negotiate for space and circuit in a very short period of time. But meanwhile, returning to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, as we do, Isaac Doble has dropped a long way down the order as well. Now, we haven't quite heard what happened to Isaac Doble, if anything, but perhaps there was an error for Isaac Doble recently. That's sent him a way down the order, but he's dropped down to P7. In fact, has lost P2 in the Prime class to Sam Van Olsen's up into P5 now. So the Doble Sim Racing driver has lost out quite dear, with only what's the best part of 5.5 laps remaining in this final race of the day. So therefore, we are definitely seeing a whole mix-up of the field right now in the Prime class and overall. And as they continue the way on here, the Mosport circuit definitely delivering surprises, as it only knows to do how. As meanwhile, we look to Jamie Dory here batting once again with Joseph Samula. We have also Matthew Addy just in front, and then you do have was the whole medley of Daniel Martin, also Alan McCain, and Adam Delman at the foreground. But Dory here just trying to stay close. He's pushed the Bueller back into the fight, and the next gen pink driver, where is the fact he's got Mikey Doble for company right behind. But meanwhile, Matthew Addy defending on the inside of 9. That's going to be on the outside of 10. Versus the view line. I think Addy's going to fall foul of being in the wrong place in that switchback sequence, but Doble there, and Dory coming into some brief contact, almost sending Dory to the wall, but they just about survive it. As meanwhile, Addy now has Dory on his inside, but not giving any call to his Matthew Addy, squeezing the door firmly shut before they even clear the apex, and in towards turn number 2 they go, and making the way off the left-hander right now. Well, it does seem as though the next gen with Sam Case's driver absolutely digging in here and not giving in to Jamie Dory as much as his rival does try to knock the door down. And in return, Mikey Doble now looking up the inside, and well, here's a battle of two-time champions as they head on towards turn number 4. It's a battle for P15 for them, but it's a battle worth some points in the overall championship. The last of the available position points for this race as they head into Moss Corner. Doble still on the inside. It shows you can go 2 wide all the way through turn 4 into 5, and Mikey Doble shows you just how to get it done as they make their way way out, albeit Dory's going to try and come back in the Audi. It's got the straight line acceleration compared to the Veloster, but you see there Doble immediately shutting the door on that inside line through turn 6. The King onto the Marangetti straightaway, and he's going to do the same up towards the S's here. He's going to make Dory go the long way round if he wants it, but I do believe that Doble may feel a bit more confident with his braking capabilities. They make the way into the S's. You can see that being articulated there as he just goes a bit deeper than Dory and gets the job done and takes P15 off his rival. But from them, Daniel Downing versus Sam Smith behind. They're battling for P6 in the Prime class, and they've got Benjamin McCluskey, who they're riding the rear bumper of as they make the way onto another lap. And as they come out of turn 10 in towards 1, Downing on the inside, McCluskey on the outside here, and the door is going to be squeezed, but not enough. Downing is allowed to take the position on the inside, and then he backs out of it. 9, there's not enough run in order to be able to get the job done as they head over the crest down to turn number 2. Downing being smart about this race, but I think Smith as well, just playing the patience game as we ride on board with the iRacing Esports driver as he heads in towards turn number 3. And well, here's Sam Smith. 9, he can't potentially win this race unless the magic was happened up front, but what he can do is gain a couple more places, and he's just got to play his cards right here. 9, of course, that he's got all the success powers of the car. Downing by comparison has very little weight, if any, in the car, so as they make the way onto the brakes here for turn at number 5. It does look as though Smith again very close. When the acceleration stakes out the corners, this is where that success pass really handicaps the car. And you'll notice that while Smith got a very similar exit to Downing, as they build their way up through the gearbox, this is where the weight is felt in the fact he's just not able to carry as much speed, even though they're all in the draft of one another. But the gap does start to become more and more noticeable, particularly down a long back straight such as here. And meanwhile, it's going to be Downing looking around the outside, and McCluskey into turn 8, can't find it again. Made to wait and made to go a little bit deep. He cuts it back to the inside of 8 to cover off Smith, but I think right now Downing's patience may be running out and Smith's opportunities may be on the rise, as meanwhile we rise our way up through the order and look to Daniel Martin, who right now trying to keep Alan McCain behind him. McCain on the right, Martin on the left. Behind Martin is Sabula, so we're looking up the inside versus McCain, trying to go hunting after his pro rival Martin, but Martin right now doing well to keep the bar in between the two of them. And as they head in towards turn number 2, coming on through the left-hander, no way to make things happen as they roll off the left-hander and up towards turn number 3 and onto the brakes. Well, it seems though right now Daniel Martin has the measure of both his rivals behind, but from them we look to Isaac Doble, who continues to try and fight on for P7 overall versus Lee Horn and Gavin Gardner as they come down through turn number 4. But Isaac Doble to give the space. Horn trying to adventure to the inside to the outside into turn number 5. And as we jump on board and look back for the rear of the Doble Sim Racing, the sheep bouncing over the curves. They're absolutely violent on the shock springs, and as they make the way in towards turn number 8 on the long run now, Isaac Doble once again trying to just open that gap up slightly versus the Honda over at Hornet. You can definitely see the difference in speed there between the two manufacturing machines as they head in towards the next braking zone. Gavin Garner very close and looking around the outside here as they get ready to battle on the brakes into the S's. Well, Isaac Doble just keeps it nice and tight, shutting the door on Horn, being able to carry too much momentum. He wants the two of them to fight one another just as much as he wants to be able to pull away, and a big part of being able to pull away is get your rivals to essentially contest one another and forget that you exist, and you can just sort off into the distance. But Horn right now very eager to stay in touch with Isaac Doble just as much as he is keeping Gavin Garner behind as they make their way onto the penultimate lap. We're coming up through turn at number 1 and onwards towards 2 they go once again. Meanwhile, we look up to Paul Zanatachi, who right now still on the hunt for what is P2 overall. He has got Wojciech Swirydowicz behind. Jay Calais is holding on there in your picture in the P2 position, and within the lead of the Prime class, and behind him are 2 pros. And right now I think Calais will be looking at his rearview mirror and wondering whether he can hold on to P2 or whether it be worth more his time perhaps backing off if they get too close. Or as they make the way down through turn number 4 into 5, the Affinity driver who we've yet to see on the podium, as Zanatachi definitely trying to hold on here versus Wojciech Swirydowicz. Should be a huge injection of points for his championship campaign if he was able to do this. It would push him back into the top 10 coming into today, we reckon. As they made the way down the back straight, one more lap to go after this one to tell the fates between them as we briefly lose Zanatachi. Well, I believe it was just a brief latency spike, but he has rematerialised for the ether. But hopefully we don't have that happen again, ladies and gentlemen, because we wouldn't want any late surprises or late retirements like that. That'd be heartbreaking for whoever it applies to. And as Wojciech Swirydowicz makes his way on through turn number 8, back it off a bit there, and I think back it off due to the concern about the connectivity as the gap opens up to 1 second. But meanwhile, as our leader goes on to the final lap, it's Joseph Doble who leads this race. Sets the personal best as well at 25.444, and right now cruising to what will be a return to the top step for the Doble Sim Racing 11 car as he makes his way through turn number 2. But meanwhile, looking from one Doble Sim Racing machine to another, Isaac Doble still with Lee Horn, Gavin Garden, and Adam Delman all firmly on his back. And well, we have to take a brief moment from them to look a bit further down the order with Matthew Sheridan, who's definitely not had a race to remember in races 1 and 2 today. But right now enjoying battling with Stephen Fry, as Fry, who had that instant much earlier on, trying to hold on to P30. There's going to be Shepard on the inside here and gets the place of a Fry coming out of turn 10 into turn number 1, and that will be for P13 and the prime class. Key points between the two of them there. But as we look from them back up to inside the top 10, we look back to Isaac Doble here, who continues to frustrate Horn, Gardner, and also Delmont as they make the way out to Moss Corner. Down the back straight is the final long run here, ladies and gentlemen. And well, could we see any last moves from Horn or Gardner to try and take places? Well, it looks so here. Things may remain as per the status quo. But meanwhile, one driver right now under a lot of pressure is Calais for P2. As here comes Zenatachi looking around the outside in towards what is turn number 8. He can't quite find it, but meanwhile we have to look to the front of the field because this man returns to the top step of the podium. The checker flag waves for him. He's your winner in race number 3. It's Joseph Doble from Doble Sim Racing who takes the checker flag, and behind him to take his first ever prime win and second place in the overall podium, Jay Calais takes the race finish there for the privateer in the 89. Holmanoff pulls out Tachi to line, who takes his first ever overall podium P3 ahead of Wojciech Swirydowicz. Sam Van Olst finishes P2 in the prime class, his first second place in the class, I believe his first class podium as well, ahead of Dan Mould and Isaac Doble back on the prime podium there, P3 in class, and the Doble Sim Racing driver giving it everything told to the P7 and doing exactly that. We do have a few more drivers to come to the finish line, including Paul Scott P28 ahead of Craig Tillerston and Matthew Cheverton, and then it will be Stephen Fry P31 ahead of Peter Greenwood as the two P739 Motorsports drivers make the way to the finish. And then it will be Luke Jones who wraps up the racing on the lead lap here in what will be a P33 finish when all is said and done for JW Motorsport. Definitely has not been the day for JW Motorsport today as a whole, but still they're in it to win it, and that's why they've got to the very end of the race. And with that, I do believe that's all of our race cars on circuit accounted for, including our lap down finishers and our retirees. But still, as we look to the front of the field, this man today in race number 3 definitely was unstoppable. After taking the lead in the early stages, didn't look back, put the distance between himself and his rivals, and got the job done, and that is Joseph Doble. Meanwhile, Jay Calais, well, he's absolutely ecstatic. I can imagine right now, of course, he broadcasts his races from his onboard perspective, and I can imagine on that live stream there might be a few tears right now as he's finally taken his first win in class, his first overall podium. Reverse grid, of course, been a big part of it, but also credit where it's due. He had stiff competition from his rivals, including Stephen Fry in the early stages, and also was Isaac Doble in the mid portion of the race, and in major pressure from the pro drivers late on. But he didn't wilt, he didn't fall, and that's why he is your runner up in this race overall. A great drive from Jay Calais. And then looking on further down, Ian Manners making his way to the pit lane, the JW Motorsport driver P19 in the 52. As I said earlier, it has not been the day today for JW Motorsport, but still Manners there getting what was a reasonable result in the end, albeit no points accrued for the P19 position as he only scores overall, but still knowing there's plenty more to come. We've got plenty more rounds in this championship. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And as we can see, after our final 14 laps of racing here today at the Mosport circuit in Canada, well, Bowmanville definitely did not disappoint, and it did disappoint for Joseph Doble in the Doble Sim Racing 11, who brought home the win by almost 5 seconds over your prime winner, Jay Calais, the privateer. Paul Zanatachi at P3 there for Affinity, taking his first ever overall podium. A great drive there, and that completes your overall podium of Joseph Doble, Calais and Zanatachi. And then Wojciech Swirydowicz P4 for Semper Racing, head of Sam Van Olst P5 for Goldwing Motorsport. Second place of the prime class as well there for the number 92 driver, his best result of the season combined. And then Dan Mould at P6 at SRL NXTGEN, fighting hard for another top 10 and a great points haul today for Mould, and that will definitely bring him right back into the championship stakes after today's points are accounted for. Isaac Doble P7 for Doble Sim Racing round off the prime podium of what is Calais, Van Olst and Isaac Doble, and the Doble Sim Racing drive being followed up by Lee Horn, Gavin Garner and Adam Delman, with Isaac Doble really proving to be the cork in the bottle, which they couldn't quite budge. Daniel Martin at P11 for RD Sim Sport, a further 1.2 seconds behind, ahead of Alan McCain P12, 4th place in the Prime class, and the iRacing eSports driver having a good result today, ahead of Mikey Doble, P13 for Doble Sim Racing, who recovered very well given the fact he started this race down in P33, if my memory serves me correctly. In fact, I think it was P31, but either way, a phenomenal charge through the field. Jamie Dory at P14 ahead of Jaroslav Cibula, and then at Benjamin McCluskey just missing out on the top 15 overall. P16 there for NXTGEN Pink, ahead of Daniel Downing and Sam Smith, who wrapped up your Prime top 6. To complete the top 20 behind the iRacing eSports driver, it was JW Motorsports Ian Manners and NXTGEN with Sam Case's Matthew Addy. Wayne Douglas P21 for NXTGEN Pink ahead of Nick Clemens, and then Alex Everett, Martin Shirley and Alex Meredith completing the top 25, with Harley Bicknell P26 for JW Motorsport ahead of teammate Reese Watt. And then to round off the top 30, we can see Paul Scott, Craig Tillotson and Matthew Cheverton, with the Aztec Racing drive being followed up by the P739 Motorsports pair of Stephen Fry and Peter Greenwood. And your heart has to go out to Stephen Fry after that early incident cost him so dearly in what could have been a potential overall top 5 as a minimum, and definitely his first shot at what was a prime podium. But still, I'm sure many opportunities are going to come to Stephen Fry, given it was his best performance of the season so far in terms of his pace in qualifying and in the first 2 races of the day. And behind Peter Greenwood, Luke Jones, who was your final lead lap finisher, P33 for JW Motorsport, head of Russell Fowler, a lap down for Performance Link Esports, and the same for Duncan at Moraes there, P35 for Goldwing Motorsport. 2 laps down for Luciano Vitford from Brammer Esports, and then we did have your sole retiree at Ben Altria, the Full Tilt Motorsport driver, retiring on the opening lap, and it does mean now 37 starters, we had 36 finishers, of which 33 finished on the lead lap. Well, that brings to a close all of our racing for today, ladies and gentlemen, and we do say goodbye to the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park circuit here in Canada. It has presented some fantastic racing for our return to the racing in the mid portion of the season, and well, it's not quite over with regards to today's broadcast either, in the fact that we'll shortly be cutting away for our post-round interviews. And well, in the meantime, just before we do that, we'd just like to remind you that if you have been enjoying the racing today, whether you're tuning in on Twitch, YouTube or Facebook, be sure to give a like or subscribe to the relative media platform of your choosing, because it is most definitely appreciated. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to step away, and we'll be back in approximately 12 to 13 minutes time for our post-round interviews. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. We'll see you shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are back for our post-round interviews, and we've got 3 drivers who volunteered their time tonight. We're going to be starting off by hearing from our Pro-Am class superstar from our final race today, picking up his first ever win, and with an overall podium as well, with the 2nd place finish of Jay Calais. And then we're going to be going to the Pro class for words from Daniel Martin, our pole sitter and race 1 winner, and one of our strongest point scorers today in the overall category. And then we'll be coming to Jamie Dory from NXTGEN Pink, who, much like his RD Simsport rival, having a strong set of results today, including the win in race number 2, but knowing that perhaps there's a bit more on the table over the course of today, given his roles have made some ground. But we'll get to his story and plenty more. But without further ado, it's my pleasure to bring to you in the interview room none other than Jay Calais. And as he joins me now, good evening to you, Jay. And what a day you've had today in the return to racing at Mosport. I mean, a win in race number 3, a 2nd place overall, and the results getting better and better over the course of the evening at Mosport. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better return to the racing, surely.
Absolutely. It's been a shaky first couple of races, but after tonight, I'm just riding the high, and I just feel absolutely on top of the world.
Oh, well, that's absolutely fantastic too, and so you should feel that way. And I have to ask, going into tonight, the Mosport circuit, some love it, some hate it. How are you feeling for the circuit as a whole?
I much prefer it in an Audi, so tonight was a little bit of adjusting just to get used to the Hyundai, and mainly just different gears for every single corner and taking those curbs a little bit differently. It is one of my favourite tracks, to be honest, and I feel it's a real sleeper. One of those tracks where people, as long as you practice it and just get some of those sectors right, you'll fall in love with it all the same.
And like they say, practice makes perfect, and with a ribbon-based circuit such as this, I think your point is something we can all learn from. And going into qualifying, we saw what was a bit of a difficult qualifying session from yourself, albeit I say difficult when the top 35 are separated by 9.5 tenths. Is it difficult, or just the field's incredibly close? How did you find qualifying, given you qualified P34 or P16 in class?
Yeah, the point you make, it being just so close between like the first 30, 35 people, it's daunting when you think you've done an absolutely fantastic lap. You then just watch the standings and you just slowly toppling down. It does sort of like make you second guess what your tactics are going to be for the following race. And at that point, with the track like Mosport, just survive the first race, see where the second race takes you, and then on the 3rd race, just make it count there. And luckily, today, it all just fell into place.
Oh, without a doubt. And coming from the qualifying session to the first race, we saw you make some early progress, gaining was 4 places in class and 7 places as a whole, moving up to P27. And it looks as though you really, one thing we've come to see from yourself over the course of the start of the season is you're not afraid to get your elbows out and get in a good touring car scrap, which is what the NXTCC is all about. And it looks as though it was more of the same of that today from you.
Yeah, it's one part of my game I've really had to really improve on. I've been very sort of passive, like towards a lot of drivers over the past few years doing iRacing, but this season and last season as well in other places, like you're not going to get anywhere just by standing still. Sometimes you have to force your way to the front like it's a Black Friday queue, and it's worked out for me today. There's in the 3rd race, I was a little bit nervous being around like some fantastic pros, so I had to sort of just try and keep a nice clean race. But in the early races, like the point we said before with how close the field is, like you need to try and fight your way up, or else you're just going to be stuck in unfortunate positions and battles you really don't want to be involved in.
Oh, most definitely. And we saw the theme continue in race number 2, you picking your fights and moving to P20 in the end and P9 in the class. I have to ask, with race number 2 and of course the prospect of being part of a top 23 reverse grid, or up to a top 23, was there starting to be a bigger focus on picking as many places up as you could to get within that eligibility zone?
I'll be honest, getting finding out I was top 20 and it was a 20 reverse grid, it scared the hell out of me. So it was never like my intention to run that high. After the terrible first few races I had, I just wanted to get a really good solid finish tonight, maybe, you know, a casual top 30. So I mean, after the 3rd race today, I think my my mindset from now on is to try and get into those higher places, get into that reverse grid, and I'm enjoying this now. So yeah, we need to keep on aiming, pushing up, and I believe I can definitely do that over the next few races.
Well, it's fantastic to hear that belief really coming through. And well, you mentioned there about your reaction when you did hear that you would be on pole for the final race today. And well, to be fair, you may have been a bit terrified by it, but it didn't stop you from putting your foot down and keeping Stephen Fry behind you. I mean, the two of you have been battling towards the back of the field. Now you were right at the front and in the spotlight. And for the first couple of laps until Stephen made a bit of an error, it looked as though it was neck and neck between you both.
Yeah, towards the end of and the middle of race 2, we're having really good battles. Stephen's someone I've battled with plenty in the past. This season in the league, I haven't really managed to see him too much, so it was nice to lock horns on that second race. And I think for the first few laps, it was a good test of confidence, a good test of perseverance, and hopefully this isn't the end of the battles between us both. We can carry on locking horns down the road in the remaining rounds.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm sure the two of you will go toe-to-toe again in the near future. And I do have to ask, when you got to the finish line after the incredible pressure that was put on you on the closing laps by Affinities, Pauls and Atachi, just take us through your reaction when you crossed line. Now, you'd not just taken your first ever Prime win, but also your first ever overall podium in P2.
I screamed, I nearly cried. I realised how much I was sweating, but I was a big smile across my face. Pretty much. I was absolutely ecstatic, and I consider myself extremely lucky. I nearly messed it up on the final lap, but yeah, it was on top of the world. Absolutely on top of the world.
Absolutely fantastic to hear. There's no need to be embarrassed about that. I'm sure everybody agree when you're under that much pressure and when you're going on for your first in many a category, to have that reaction afterwards, it's well deserved. And like I always say, whilst the race in itself may not be physically real, the emotions and everything behind it most certainly is. And well, with things now getting real in terms of your Prime Championship campaign, next week, we make our way to Germany for the start of a double-header and beginning with the Nürburgring Grand Prix Strecker circuit. How are you feeling for a visit to the German circuit?
It's actually one of my favourite Grand Prix circuits, one that on touring car officials I've got on pretty well with, actually. So it's got a nice bit of width for it. I think we're going to see a lot of battling all up and down the grid like we've seen for a lot of the races already this season. And I consider it all my strengths, but I don't want to put my cards down on it just yet, because anything can happen in those first two races. But if it's going to be anything like today, then bring it on. I wish it was just tomorrow instead. Can't wait.
Oh, absolutely love the enthusiasm. And Jay, just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight? As I do appreciate you do have quite a bit of a fan following, and I do believe we have Steve SimStation following on YouTube right now, tuning you on as well.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much, Steve. Massive thank you to everyone who watches on the content creation, everyone from NXTGEN who puts together these amazing seasons. Also, the sponsors on my car at Shop Nicely, the Styricon Designs as well. Thank you for letting me use your logos and plastering all over my beautiful pink glittery car. And yeah, just everyone who keeps watching all the broadcasts that you lot put together as well. Keep watching, keep recommending them. Let's make this series go to the moon.
Thank you, Jay, and likewise, we wish you all the best in your preparations for the next round of racing. And whilst the round isn't going to be tomorrow, in fact, I think it's iRacing Patch Day tomorrow now instead, what we can say is we look forward to when we next see you out of the circuit in Germany. But until then, savour the moment, absolutely revel in it. You've earned it, that second place overall and that win in race number 3 in class, and we'll see you in a week's time.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So hearing there from Jay Calais, the privateer, who absolutely on fire. And well, you can hear that absolute enthusiasm pouring on through. And it only takes one spark to ignite your championship campaign. And that's exactly what's happened today for the number 89 driver. He was quite transparent in saying that the first 3 rounds didn't quite work out for him, finding himself really battling against the elements and having to try and get things to click. But today, things definitely did click. But again, qualifying, putting in a good lap, only to find his P34 on a grid of 44 drivers. And then when the top 35 are separated by 9.5 tenths, if that, it does leave you wondering, what exactly do you have to do to have a good qualifying session? But keeping his head down and going into the first race today and knowing progress means prizes. And that's exactly what happened in race 1, the same in race 2, enjoying the battling, but picking his fights, and then come the end of race 2 of a P20 finish, getting the reverse grid that was unexpected, and admitting absolutely frightened and terrified by the thought of being on pole, but then getting down to the business. And well, in the end, it only went one way, and it went the way of Jay Calais for the win in the Pro-Am class in the final race today. Some huge points on the board, and definitely will benefit his Pro-Am Championship campaign, and now definitely all fired up for a circuit that he does enjoy in the touring car racing class machines, the Nürburgring Grand Prix Tracker, and we look forward to seeing whether he can potentially replicate today's results or even go a little bit further in a week's time. But of course now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to our second interview of the day, and we're going to now be hearing from a man we spoke to earlier on in today's broadcast, and that is Daniel Martin, as we get ready for him to join me in the interview room, and we'll get to hear even more of the story behind the man who took pole position, and also what was the win in our first race of the day, and also a top 5 in race 2 and a P11 in the final race. But as I believe he's given us the thumbs up to say he's good to go, he joins me now in the interview room. Dan, welcome to you once again. Of course, we had a chance to catch up with you briefly earlier today, but now the racing has concluded, the win in race number 1 added to by a P5 in race 2 and a P11 in race 3. It looked as though you gave it everything the RD Sim Sport Honda could give today, and have walked away with a huge haul of points as a result.
Yeah, it's a really successful night. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Well, it's great to hear that you've enjoyed it out there. And, well, of course, buoyant after race number 1, I would presume. Let's dial things back a little bit to the pole position, what was the qualifying session. Of course, this circuit, more known for perhaps being a circuit that favours the Audi over the Honda. But at the flip side of the coin, of course, the Honda does bring some surprises, and it looks like you may have surprised a few in the field. How did you find qualifying? Was it a perfect lap? Was there a bit more out there? Tell us it from your perspective.
It was just about trying to get some clear air. Coming out the pits, I was bang smack in the middle of everybody, I think. So I think I literally just rolled round to the back for 3 laps, and then realised that it was a 15-minute session, not a 20-minute session, so I had to get a move on. And just to get some clear track, really, just to focus on my lines, focus on the momentum, carrying the speed up that back straight with the weight, and then slowly and surely, the tyres are coming in, times are getting quicker and quicker. The traffic was really helpful to me today. There was, people obviously making a slight mistake in front of me, flashing the light, and they moved over. So thank you for them for doing that. Good etiquette there. And yeah, that last lap was just similar to a lap I've done previously in a different league. It was high stress, but we knew we had some good pace here. So it was just about getting that last sector just right, and I managed to nail it. And it was literally the last lap of the session for myself. So yeah, that was sweet.
We did, I must admit, feels like it was a bit of a microphone drop moment in terms of your last lap, and then just going straight to the pits and saying, right, I'm done, dusted, there's nobody else who's going to beat this lap. A phenomenal pole lap, particularly when we have a field of a top 35 separated by less than a second. And then going into the first race, did that give you the confidence to feel that, despite the fact you had 2 very strong drivers behind you in the form of what was Dan Mould and Adam Delmont, that you could potentially just pull away and lead the way, or was it more see how it goes over the race?
Not really. I think they either didn't have any weight or were pretty much low on the weight due to their position going into this round, with a few drop scores. Poor results, unfortunately for them. So I knew they were going to be right on my tail, and in my head I was thinking, get head down for the first couple of laps. If they stick their nose down there, probably give them a bit of room. If they get past, they get past. Just play the long game, get some points, bring it home. But I did find that I was able to keep up some good pace through the first and second sector, and then it was literally just picking that line through that double right hand, is it Moss, before the back straight, just to make sure the exit was as good as it can be, just to cover off that inside line for the back straight. And Dan is a fair racer. and he picked his outside line. I picked my inside line. Racing room, it was just good elbows out racing. And fortunately, I was able just to get a slight gap. And it was just literally, I think it was 0.3 of a second each lap. I had to be ahead coming out of Moss to be able to cover that inside line and still be alongside before the braking point for the right-hander. So it was just literally calculating it on the relative each time. Tactical. It was really good fun, but high stress.
Oh, without a doubt, I can only imagine the pressure in the cockpit, and then going into race number 2, a P7 start, but now the maximum success bars, and finishing P5. But it definitely looked as though A, the weight was being felt, and B, for every place you take, drivers behind be very eager to take the place back off of you immediately.
Oh, it was just so tricky. Fortunately, last night with the practice races, I think race 2 I chucked on P2 weight, just for the experience to see what the car was feeling like with that much weight on around here, which did definitely help for brake bias calculations and just feeling where the car is for the first couple of laps with the weight. But crikey, it was I think I was losing half a second down that back straight. I could get a good exit out of Moss, be right on someone's bumper, and by the end of it, I've got someone behind trying to get by me, and it was just really tactical, but at the same time, bloody good fun.
Oh, indeed. It looks like you're enjoying yourself out there. And then going into race number 3, was the top 20 reverse grid being drawn out of the lottery bowl, which would mean you'd start P16 and still having quite a bit of weight in the car, and knowing that you'd have a lot of very close championship contenders around you. How did you feel going into the final race of the day?
Again, it was one of those of, okay, I've got the lowest weight I've had on all night, so I know there is some pace there. And the practice myself and Martin and Alex put in prior to this event, I knew the pack racing was going to be intense. So it was just a case of just picking my lines, seeing what was happening in front of me, trying to read like 2 corners ahead, if there's any checking up and stuff like that. So just keeping it clean. There was a moment with, I think it was Alan, into Moss very early on into the race. I think they checked up and I had nowhere to go, so I just had to put my nose down inside because it was either that or hit him. And I knew then that was going to absolutely crucify me on the exit of that corner. And then we had a good little tussle with Matt Addy, who unfortunately went a bit deep into turn 2, and nearly, I think he rejoined again, but that was a heart and mouth moment because I thought I was going off. So I was quite fortunate to regain track position there, lose a few spots but still survive. And then it was a case of, okay, let's just bring this home now. And fortunately we did.
Indeed, it sounds as though quite a roller coaster of a race in race number 3, but like you say, bringing the car home in the end, and with it 3 point scores in the overall championship for 3 races today. And while your best point scores of the season thus far, and I do believe provisionally it does mean that after today you've moved yourself into the lead of the championship by 15 points over Wojciech Swirydowicz. Of course, championship momentum swings back and forth, but knowing that you're championship leader, how does that leave you feeling going into next week's race at the Nürburgring GP Strecker?
Knowing that I'm going to have 100 litres of fuel in should be fun. So we'll see how that goes in qualifying. Like you said, it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Take each race as it comes, just pick them off, and we'll see where we're at by the end of the year. Well, end of the season, sorry, not end of the year.
Indeed, and we do look forward to seeing you out of the circuit in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, Dan, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to say hi to everyone at RD Sim Sport. Hopefully looking forward to Monday Night Madness on week 13, where we all get together and have a couple of races for the banter. Commiserations to Martin tonight. He had some real good pace in practice, and for the last couple of sessions we've been doing, just got fortunate instance for him. And Alex did really well tonight. Really used his head, showed maturity tonight to bring home some real good points for his championship. So that's boosted his spirits a bit. So that's good. And hi to Rob for teaching us how to slowly bleed. He will know what that means.
Well, Rob, if you are tuning in, don't be shy. Feel free to say hi, because it's always good to see you tuned in, Rob. But with that, Dan, glad to hear the mood in the team is buoyant as always, and everyone's together. And I hope you have a great time with the Monday Madness with Week 13 that's coming up. But until then, congratulations on your results today. Fantastic to see you in fine form. We look forward to plenty more in a week's time at the Nürburgring. But until then, have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you in Germany.
Cheers, Paul, and congrats on the VCO.
Thank you. So hearing there from Dan Martin, who absolutely enjoying the racing today, taking pole position, plus also with it the win in race number 1, fighting on to a P5 in race number 2. And as he mentioned himself there, the fact that really finding himself being tugged back and forth. For every place he could gain, he'd lose out potentially in the run to the next corner, given the fact he had the maximum success balance going into race number 2. But still a P5 hard earned, and then going into race number 3, the lowest amount of weight he carried into the race all evening, and find himself in again tussles of plenty between drivers, and after that near miss with Matthew Addy, opting instead to back off and consolidate the P11 finish. I think a very sensible idea when all is said and done. And as we do see the final pictures here of Dan being chased by Alan McCain to the finish line with only 1 lap to go as they make their way across the line this time, where you can imagine at that point on was definitely trying to knuckle down and take home those final positions and focus on consolidating what has been a strong night, and a night strong enough to put him into the provisional championship lead, subject to Stewart's inquiries. But now coming on to our final interview of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard from one pro, you're going to hear from another pro now, and you're going to be hearing from none other than Jamie Doble. And as he gets ready to join me in the interview room, we'll get to hear the story from the man who took the win in race number 2 and has definitely had a strong set of performances tonight, just like his peer Daniel Martin. But as he gets himself set and gets ready to join me in the interview room, well, we just wait to see when he does become available. But I think also he might just be debriefing at the moment with the administration team, what Jamie Doble being the mind behind the NXTCC. And just a quick point there on what was mentioned by Daniel Martin with regards to the VCO, and congratulations myself. For those unaware, I have reached nomination stages of the Best Commentary Award for the VCO Simi Awards for 2023. But enough about me, ladies and gentlemen, more about our drivers here. And I do believe Jamie Doble is now going to join us in the interview room, and here he is. Jamie, good evening to you. We spoke to you a little bit earlier on in today's broadcast, and you seemed all fired up for race number 2. And now that we're in the future, if you will, we've seen you take the win in race number 2, a 14th place in race number 3, a 6th place in race number 1. Points gained in every race today. It looked as though you had fun out there, albeit it was hard fighting in every race.
Yeah, absolutely. I said in the game chat at the end of the race when everyone was in the pits, to be honest, you know, this league gets stronger and stronger, but just there's a few incidents you expect from 40 odd cars racing around a track as close as this. You know, I think we were saying the top 30 or something like that cars were within a second in quali, but the driving standards everyone I came across or was around were phenomenal. And it's just a track like this is either going to go really, really well with great battling, great racing, or it can be an absolute disaster with everyone just throwing moves. So yeah, I'm glad it was as good as it felt, and hopefully it looked as good as it felt.
Oh, most definitely. We can tell you from a spectator standpoint, I think everybody tuning in will agree it was absolutely phenomenal racing today. And kicking off with qualifying, we saw you take P12 on the grid in an Audi which had a bit of weight in it, but also an Audi that goes strongly here. And we know you do enjoy this combination. How did qualifying feel for you?
Yeah, well, truthfully, I mean, I'm happy but disheartened with P12. I did hardly any practice, to be honest. I had some people around just beforehand, so I had about 15 minutes. So I didn't really get into the rhythm. So quali was my extended practice, and I went out nice and early as I always do, try and get a clean track, and then got Wayne and Benji with me, and just we were helping each other. It was all right. You know, I'll take a P12, like I say, in a field this big, but a top 10, I think could have been done. I mean, if I had found 2 temps, I think me, Gav, Mikey, anywhere the top 14, found another 2 temps around a lap, that would have put us P4. That's how close it was. So well, I'll take it.
Well, taking a P12 and going into the first race, halving the gap to the front of the field and finishing at P6. I mean, it definitely looked as though, like you said, a disheartening from qualifying didn't stop you from getting your head down and really getting stuck into the fighting.
No, absolutely. Like I say, I didn't have the heaviest car. The car was quite well balanced. It wasn't as quick as it could have been. Down the straight, the Audi's rapid, getting up to the speeds. Once I started getting in that top 10, top 8, I was like, if I get P6, then I know I'm in the reverse grid. You know, if I get better, happy days. But I was running P7 weight going into quali, so P6 an extra 5 kilos. I knew how the car handled. So yeah, P6. I was happy with that because I knew I'd be in that reverse grid draw.
Well, speaking of that reverse grid draw, the number 7 was drawn out for race number 2, and as we spoke to you then, you seemed pretty confident that you'd be able to go hunting after the win versus Jaroslav Sabula, and we saw the two of you fighting in the early stages, and you took the lead at the end of the first lap, but then your rival Jaroslav didn't let you go at any point. He kept you honest every step of the way.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I had a little message from him after the race. He said I had pace in race 1 and he was happy sat in P2. I mean, I was happy with him sat in P2. We pulled a gap on the field. I was expecting him to have a little fight towards the end, but I think he was playing strategically. So we kind of inadvertently worked together. So yeah, I'm glad he was behind, and hats off to him. Like I said to him in the messages, I think I owe him now.
Well, indeed, as they say, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and you two definitely demonstrated that in race number 2 and making it a two-way fight for the win all the way to the checkered flag. But after working together, of course, we had to split your paths to a degree by making it a top 20 reverse grid for the final race of the day. You'd be starting P20 right at the back of the whole flipped order. How did the P20 start feel for you?
Daunting. You know, knowing the cars just in front of me had, well, it's 10 kilos for the first 3 places, the drop, and then it goes down in increments of 5. So obviously, it was relying on that Audi launch again, to get that Audi launch nailed, to be able to just try and gap 21 back. There were some fast guys in there, obviously, through incidents, and it's risk against reward. Like I say, you know my motto, and anyone who's been watching this for a few seasons knows my motto. If I'm in a hunt for a championship, or if I want a championship, I try and take the quote Turkington-esque approach, and it's risk against reward. Like I say, race 1 again, happy where I was. Race 2, I knew I had someone behind me I could trust. Race 3 was picking the battles, but knowing where and when to do these moves. I mean, me and Mikey were a bit hammer and tong for the last quarter of the race, but he's a champion.
It was fantastic racing between the two of you, and also demonstrating you can go 2 wide around most of, if not the entire lap. But beyond fighting with Mikey, we also got to see you scrap in amongst with some other drivers as well, such as once again fighting with Jaroslav, and also at certain points fighting with the likes of Benjamin McCluskey as well. I mean, you're teammates at the end of the day, but you're also both racing your own respective championship fights.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, your first biggest rival is your teammates at the end of the day, isn't it? That's who you get compared against. You know, he's in the Veloster. Benji's always a strong contender. He's always there or thereabouts. He's really struggled this week. You know, but he can always get a result. And you know, we've got Wayne as well. We've got to think of the team points at the end of the day. But yeah, we'll have a little look here and there, and it won't be as hard as some of them. But yeah, you've got to have a little battle. It's all for the stream.
Brilliant, phenomenal battling between each other. And coming on to looking ahead now to the next round, of course, we head towards the end of the first half of the season in a week's time. Your results today position you P5 in the championship provisionally, subject to stewards' inquiries, and the Nürburgring Grand Prix tracker awaits you as of next Tuesday. How are you feeling for round 5?
To be honest, last time I was at Nürburgring was 2 seasons ago, and I was in the Veloster, and that was the turning point in the championship when I went from leading the championship to, I think, P4, P5. So I'm a bit apprehensive, but say that you got the long straights. I think it'd be quite interesting. Fast corners. I think the Audi should do quite well there again. But it can be a bit of a hidden track with a few incidents, especially through that chicane. Obviously, we're at the fast chicane as well, so you've got to choose your battles again. Maybe stay in line, maybe go for a move. But it's one of those risk against rewards. I'll let you know in a week.
Well, indeed, we can only find out on the night, but we do appreciate your insights there, particularly with regards to the risk versus reward nature of the circuit. And whilst you do look to get underway your preparations in the near future, just before we do let you go, Jamie, as always, a quick question. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
You know me, it's the usual lot. Obviously, all of the people behind the scenes who run this. I'm not going to go into details. We do that at the end of the season. Yourself, Paul, for the very expertise stream. You know, without you, I don't think the NXTCC would have, half of what it has. And everyone who participates, they give up their evenings, they race. They might not have the best results, but they come back, and this series gets stronger and stronger every year. So, at the halfway point, this is where I start planning next season, and there'll be a few surprises. There'll be another season coming for sure, and we'll try and make it even better. I've got a few things on my sleeve.
Well, Jamie, we look forward to more about that in due course. But until then, and until next week in Germany, we wish you a lovely rest of your evening. Congratulations on your performances today, and as always, thank you for joining me in the interview room.
See you later, Paul.
So hearing there from Jamie Dory, the pro driver in the next-gen pink Audi RS3. The number 13, unlucky for some, but the good luck continues to stay with Jamie, there's no doubt about it. And despite a P12 in qualifying, which many would be happy with given the calibre of the field, you could hear there the fact that weird contradiction in terms of emotions. Happy with the lap, but also disheartened by the fact that when the field's so close to be P12 when you deliver a great lap, it just doesn't feel right. And I think we're seeing that from a lot of drivers in the fact that because the field is so tight at these circuits, and the Mosport circuit, not an easy circuit to get right, but when everyone is close together, it means that even your best may not be good enough for the top 20, let alone what is the top 10. But for Jamie, it was a P12 start, and from there, making his way forward, race number 1 moving to P6, race number 2 quickly off the line and working with Jaroslav Sabula in order to make sure the battle for the lead only stayed between the two of them. And great working between the two rivals there. It definitely goes to show both thinking ahead in terms of who they should pitch their fights with, and taking the win in race number 2 and then going into race number 3. We'll have to start P20, maximum success ballast in the car, and only able to push forward to P14. But along the way, we got to see some fantastic battling, most notably, of course, the battle between Jamie and Mikey Doble. The two friends and good rivals once again giving us a great display, and all in all, some great points gained by the pro driver. But the question is, can he carry on this run of form in Germany? Because there's plenty to expect, and he'll be hoping to get a bit more practice in before round number 5. But will he be able to do so? And could we see him return to the top of the championship? Well, only time will tell. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. You've just heard from Jamie Dory for Next Gen Racing Pink in the Pro Class at number 13. But prior to talking to Jamie tonight, we have also heard from Jay Calais, the privateer in the Pro-Am class, picking up his first win, of course, in the Pro-Am class in race number 3 in his first overall podium, but also points finisher in the other 2 races and enjoying a great day of racing. And we also heard in between the 2 of them Daniel Martin, a number 70 driver from RD Simsport in the Honda Civic Type R, and hearing his perspective in the pro class from what was a pole position and race number 1 win to be proud of, but also pride in picking up points in both races 2 and 3 were P5 and P11 and going into the next round as our championship leader, subject to stewards' inquiries. But with that, congratulations to all 3 of them on their great performances today, and thank you to them all for joining me in the interview room. Now, we just mentioned about provisional standings and whatnot, and let's not keep you salivating any longer, because here we can update you on the provisional classifications subject to those stewards' inquiries going into round number 5. And after now our 12th race as of the end of today, we can see in the overall Drivers' Championship standings, it is Daniel Martin who leads on 450 points to the 435 of Wojciech Swirydowicz. Swirydowicz has done well to hold on to P2, and with that goes to show that right now seems to be stabilising his championship campaign. But let's not rule out Joseph Doble in P3 and 408 points, and Mikey Doble dropping to P4 by contrast. And the late instance in race number 2 in particular really costing Doble dear, but still he's got plenty of rounds to get things right, and this could be his first drop score that he does apply effectively. Remember, drop scores are being accounted for, but they will come into a bigger effect when we get to the end of the season with 1 round of racing being dropped from the season total. Meanwhile, P5 a further 7 points behind Jamie Dory, so it is tightening up inside the top 5, and Adam Delman a further 3 points off in P6, but we've got 12 points to Jazz Sabula. So if anything now, we started off tonight knowing the top 4 were breaking away. Now the top 7 are back together, and it's a further 48 points to Gavin Garland in P8 ahead of Lee Horn, with Paul Zanatachi completing your top 10 there, and they drive towards his podium finish in race number 3, giving him a huge boon of points and moving him closer now to Lee Horn at 6 points between the 2 of them. Dan Mole P11 ahead of Isaac Doble, with Isaac Doble continuing to hold on to the Pro-Am leader status in the overall classification. He's at 11 points ahead of Benjamin McCluskey, with Sam Smith leapfrogging his way into P14 with a great set of performances today, and then Nick Clemens wraps up the top 15 there on 190 points. We'll then come to the Pro-Am IMB Racewear Drivers' Championship standings, provisional, and as we can see here, after 4 rounds of racing, Isaac Doble holds on to the lead, not gaining as many points as his rival Alex Meredith today, but still some good points to be earned, and therefore the lead stands at the best part of what is there, 115 points over his rival. Alex Meredith gaining that P2 back ahead of Matthew Addy, but as well it should be said to Matthew Addy, a great points haul and only 5 points off of Meredith, and it is swings and roundabouts for both drivers. It seems though Matthew Addy, despite perhaps not having a spectacular result as his rivals, definitely being Mr. Consistent right now in the background, and that could reap rewards for him later in the season. Sam Smith has leapt up to P4 and 405 points after the biggest points haul today in the class, ahead of Sam Van Ol's P5, but note there the fact that we do have only 12 points separating P2 through to P5, and it's a further 13 points to Alan McCain, and a further 7 afield to Daniel Downing in P7. Ben Altrier moves into P8, drops all the way down from P2 to P8 after a round of racing, which will most likely go as his drop score, given the fact Mosport not kind to the full Tilby Motorsport driver. And then Paul Scott and Fraser Elphick completing your top 10, with Jay Calais going into P11 with that win in the final race of the day, giving him a huge points haul on 294. He's the best part of 22 clear, and Matthew Cheverton, with Duncan Rise, Luke Jones and Rafael Zarsht completing your top 15 provisional of the Pro-Am standings. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, perhaps you're itching to see what we've got in store for the purposes of 2024 and plenty more, well firstly, why not check out our official website, and that's at www.nextgenracing.co.uk, and as our website appears on screen very shortly in front of you now, is the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. And we've been hosting leagues for the best part of 16.5 years, in fact coming up to our 17th year anniversary. And whilst we used to hold leagues on both PC and console, now we're primarily focused on PC, particularly the iRacing platform. But do keep in mind we've always got more in the pipeline, and we'd love to have you as part of our community. Indeed, whether you're a racer, alternatively want to become part of always our broadcasting team, or just want to be a member and speak amongst like-minded individuals who enjoy motorsport and sim racing in their spare time, well do feel free to check out our website and find out all the more about Next Gen Racing. But if you're not keen on perhaps going to our website today, well, there are always alternatives, and particularly if you're a social media person, we'd recommend you check out our official Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. We can find out more about the team behind the scenes, including our stewards, our administrators, in terms of what they do on the scenes, not just in the simulated world, but also in the real world, where a good number of them being real-life track marshals, if not also racing drivers. We'd also like to take a moment to say thank you to our sponsors, and they do include Power Maxed, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Sam Cases UK, Douglas Motorsport, Benji Sim Photos, and then last but not least, our title sponsor for this season, IMB Racewear, the sim racing and real-life racing wear race provider that prides itself on individuality with their fully custom designs, enabling you to make the impact you have always wanted to on track, as it is designed for you by you. Do head to their website, imbracewear.com, to find out more about IMB Racewear's fully customizable product range, which brings benefits you just cannot get from off-the-shelf products. That website again, imbracewear.com. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we charge away to the end of the first half of the season. For in a week's time, on Tuesday, the 12th of December 2023, round 5 of 10, we'll see our drivers make their way to Germany for the one and only Nürburgring Grand Prix Strecker. In a highly technical and tight circuit, overtaking is going to be critical, but a good qualifying lap is not going to go amiss either. And who will come out the other side going into the second half of our German doubleheader, Oscher's leaving in round number 6, with the first half of the season on their side. All that and more will be discovered at the Nürburgring in a week's time, but until then, we've been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.